you here? Have you come for the show? The show that we are having? I hope so. Maybe you just wandered in by accident. Hello, my name is Glory. This is my channel. In case you are new here, I hope you are comfortable. Today is a first episode ever of Raving Reader Roundup. I hope you will enjoy it. We're going to talk about writers and pitches and querying, and I cannot do it alone. In fact, I do not want to do it alone, even if I could. So with me today is the lovely Stephanie. Hello. Yay. Hello. And Barrett is here. It's fantastic. I mean, and also, guess who I found? Doll. Oh my goodness. Hi. Doll is here. And then, look, just to top it off, Zara showed up. Woo-hoo! She cleared her schedule for us. It's an honor. And then, my right hand, my best friend, the person that I have been unable to extract myself from for nearly 40 years, Tom. Hello, Tom. My technical producer and wonderful person. Everybody is here. It is a full house. It looks like there's a lot going on in chat too, which is really cool. So before I forget, let's go ahead and say hello to everybody. Zara was so early.
Yeah.
He was here in the morning just going, ha ha ha.
I've been looking forward to this all day. He's not lying.
And in case you wondered, Zara is not alone because
I was going to say, I think
also was right on her tail. They're like, oh, hi. The early morning people. Okay. Also, Regina's here. Oh, Regina, thank you so much for the subscription. I hope you enjoy yourself here. We try to have a good time every week at 4 p.m. on Mondays Eastern Time. CB is hanging out with us and working on Project Spider. Can't wait. CB, I know that like traditionally fanfic writers are like, I don't need pitches, but wait till you hear my pitch on why pitches are good. So
pitch on pitches. We should not turn this into a drinking game every time we say pitch.
I mean, but you could.
Say,
and,
yeah.
And
if it's water,
in
you
fact,
can.
Tom made me another glass of Feeling Good. We will be giving out the recipe in just a moment.
Also, Project Spider.
Project Spider. Wait, yeah, CB will tell you about it.
I want to know more.
So, Heather is here.
Hi, Heather.
And Maggie is here. Hello, darling. And
Maggie.
It's been so long. It's like it's been days, weeks, months. It's been 5 minutes.
It's been 5 minutes.
Tom's here doing double duty because I like to say it. Nia's here. Hello. It's like I just saw you. It's funny how that works out. It's delightful. All right, just scrolling around to see if I've missed anybody. Oh, Diana is here. Hello, and the beautiful smiling dog. Yes. Yes, very much. And I think I've got everybody.
Jules just showed up.
Oh, Jules. Okay.
Jules. Yeah.
Jules is here. How is it going? And did the internet mystery ever get solved?
Also, today I am the Maggie of the show because my internet is going to be wonky as crap. So
declare it and own it.
I love the Maggie burn in there too. It's like, ooh.
It's a woo.
I know. I was like, oh, all right.
Real quick for everybody.
It wasn't a burn.
No, I know. I'm teasing.
We're teasing.
That Maggie's premiering a video. Oh, very. I can't wait to watch it. I'm looking forward. Did I overlook anybody? Nope, looks good. Twitching. Yes, twitching. We are simulcasting.
That verb is a lol. That verb is a lol.
I like the idea of Twitch more now that I've heard about rating. And we just take all of our friends over to someone else's when we finish.
Yeah.
How do you put it, Glory? Like
dropping them off at daycare. That's like I got a minivan full of kids, and I'm like, before we go, I'm gonna just drop you all off at daycare, and then the daycare can then drop you all off at the next party. You know. When I was a kid, daycares used to do that. They would like bus you around, and they would like honestly, you could drop all the kids off at a daycare, and then the family would pick them up and have a party, and then drop them back off, so that you can have preschool parties during the weekday. So it was a kind of an interesting place. I'm just saying.
It was when there was semi-adult supervision.
Well, it had just been invented. Adult supervision had just been invented. It was the late 80s. And things were going really well. Everybody thought it was this brand new thing that we were all going to love. And it was before it got abused and children got smothered. So, well, emotionally smothered, not like actually. That's something else.
Leave that one for my sci-fi.
I was going to say, I was like, that was not where I was expecting that to go.
Like this went dark.
I have found out that like the current children, like elementary school kids, are not allowed to even go outside to play in their backyard without adult supervision. And I'm like, excuse me, what?
Are you kidding me? My kids go outside. Oh. I mean, I know where they are, but I'm not out there hovering over them, making sure they're like keeping their shoes tight or whatever.
And if they go to a friend's house, they have a cell phone and they have to call or text every hour on the hour to a parent to let them know they're okay. Even though they are inside in someone else's house where there is still adult supervision.
This is why I would be a good parent.
I could enjoy this conversation, but I don't feel like putting my family on minor blast. So
versus I was born before adult supervision had been invented, and it was like, go out and stay away from the Namblehams. Was like
no, my mom lived, obviously like grew up also pre-adult supervision, if that's what we're calling it, before it was invented, is what we're gonna call it. And then just like living in Manhattan as a mom, she was more the other direction of like
a little more protective.
I think a little is a bit of an understatement.
Okay.
I can understand that. We've talked and like how similar our moms were in some ways, because I think we were like approximately the same age actually, or within about 10 years. And when I was at boarding school, I was going to meet my parents in Manhattan. For Thanksgiving, there was a whole thing going on, and that's what I was meeting them for. Before I left school, my mother sent a 6-page fax, and it in big, like 100-point font letters.
Wow.
The fax started. It was like the old faxes where it's just one long piece of paper.
One piece of paper. Yeah.
And it started with, never go in a bathroom alone. 4 exclamation marks. So she meant it. Yeah. The headmistress called me into a meeting to give me this fax. Like normally with your faxes, you would just get it in your mailbox cubbyhole at school because there were 300 students. You didn't hand deliver mail. And she was like, no, you need to come in. You can't see this fax. I need to talk to you about it first. And I'm like, what has my mother sent? And I thought it was going to be something embarrassing, like the postcards she kept sending me. There was a series of postcards that okay. So, there's this stereotype about Southerners, hillbillies, and they're not wearing clothing in a traditional way and no shoes whatsoever, and sitting on a back porch and like the babies are smoking and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Maybe some of you have picked up on this. Well,
I mean, I've been to West Virginia, but yes.
In the late 80s, early 90s, somebody thought it would be hilarious to stage these kinds of photos and put them on postcards to mail as souvenirs to people when you were visiting Mississippi. My mother got a pack of them and thought it would be hilarious to mail me weekly notes on these postcards to boarding school and pretend that this was, because all the pictures were of the same people, like it was a family. And they're like in overalls with no shirt underneath, and they're walking around with moonshine, and the babies are helping with the distillery, and they're all like scrubbing clothes on a washboard out back in a derelict house that looks like it's actually falling in, which is probably why they were outside, because legally they couldn't enter the building. And they would pass these postcards around to all the admin and the teachers before I would finally get it, because they all believed her letters on the back of the postcard of like, "Dear Glory, just another picture to remind you of the family who loves you. I was just out here washing laundry and a photographer stopped by and took a picture of us." And they believed this, and she kept sending it because she thought it was hilarious. So I thought it was like some other inappropriate letter she had faxed me to just shame me and embarrass me as a young teenager. And instead, the principal was like, "So you're going to Manhattan on an airplane. Your mother sent you this fax, but I want you to understand, do not get scared when you read it." And I'm like, what would my mother send me that would scare me? Like, I've had to live with this woman my whole life.
Yeah, I know. It's like, oh, you might be scared.
Yeah, you might. Yeah, and I'm like, so,
this is not my first fax. Like,
so, like, she wouldn't let me read the fax without, like, I had to sit there while I read it so that she could answer questions I would have if I had any
about your own mother.
Yeah.
About my own mother and my mother's letters to me. That was essentially a explanation of me traveling from Seattle to New York by myself, and then I would have to wait about 4 hours in the airport till Mom and Dad showed up because they couldn't get a sooner flight. I was 13. I had already been making dinner every night since I was 11. I had been the one doing the majority of the housework, and I had to learn to wash laundry at 8 years old for the whole family. And that was before we had a dryer. So, yeah, this whole idea. And I was like, read it. I'm like, okay. She's like, "Do you have any questions?" I'm like, I thought Mom was pretty clear. Don't go to the bathroom. If there's no one in a public bathroom, don't walk in. Wait till someone else walks in and go in with them so that you are not alone in a large public bathroom, because somebody could come in and try to mug you. Which I'm like, okay, I understand that. I've seen, like, detective stories. It's fine.
I've seen detective stories. That's fine.
Right. I understand the big city is, like, dangerous, and there's muggers, and, there's people who are trying to con people. So she was like, she listed several scams that were common in, I guess, her childhood. I don't know. Like where they drop something and say you knocked them. And she's like, anytime you have a funny feeling, you just leave. Just leave and go find, like, a security guard and just hang around them. You don't have to tell them you're scared. You just loiter around a security guard, and if anybody asks, that you're waiting for your parents' plane to arrive.
If you did that now, if you were loitering near a security guard, they'd assume that you were suspicious.
As I said, it was 1992, y'all. So welcome to. There was literally no security to walk through to go to the airport. Like, your family could go all the way to your arrival or departure gate and meet you there, and there was no security you went through. Like, there weren't even metal detectors back then on most airports. At least that I went to smaller airports, didn't even have metal detectors. And if you didn't want to pass through it, that was fine. You could elect not to. What was the point?
I'm old enough to remember that.
I'm not.
I was before 2001.
I was in diapers.
It's very clear why it all changed, but I, as someone with functioning memory, like, of traveling, I don't have any memories of pre-2000.
What's amazing to me is that it was never a problem before that. You know what I mean? Like, it's amazing that there wasn't something before that point where we were like, maybe we should just check, since so many people are armed in this country. Like,
I was saying, like, there was about for 15 years before 2001. There was every year at least a show, if not 5 or 6, talking about how someone could easily, go on a plane and do what happened.
I remember, like, being during this time period, the early 90s, a man had a Bowie knife, strapped to his ankle. And, like, one of the other people on the plane, like, went to a stewardess and was like, I think it's too big. And because I think you were allowed, what was it, a 4 or 5 inch blade?
4, yeah.
It used to be 4,
I don't travel with my knife.
And I only know that because there's an episode of NCIS where a certain character loses their memory and asks someone else, like, oh, did they take your knife? Was it longer than 4 inches? And the person's like, oh, they changed that after 9/11. And the person didn't remember 9/11.
Oh, wow.
And so, because they had lost their memory, and it was just like, whew.
Well, it turned out the guy, like, it was piece bound. The knife was piece bound. but it turned out he was using just a random holster for it rather than like specific to that knife. So it was made for a much larger blade. So when he pulls it out, it's like laughably small. And you know, and like that happened on, I think that actually happened on the plane to Manhattan in front of everyone, and everybody kind of had a good laugh, and he was very good natured about it. He's like, honestly, I'm so used to wearing it, I entirely forgot that I had it on and that somebody would see it when my, you know, sitting the pant leg would go up. I did not, and he apologized, like, I didn't mean to alarm anybody. I'm so sorry. And he's like, I normally, like, he did something weird that I'm like, why would you need a knife for that? Like I normally hook up big rigs, and I'm like, why would you need a knife on your ankle for that? But, you know, everybody was fine about it. Yeah. Maggie says, in the mid-1990s, I remember the complaints about having to go through metal detectors in Dallas and people mad because they had to take their guns back out to their car. Yeah.
You know what I find funny about that is they had metal detectors in casinos a long time before that. And those very same people, I guarantee you, knew that and had no problem leaving those guns in their trucks before they waddled in the casino to a slot machine. So a big to those people on that one.
Hi, Eva. I'm so glad you're here. But yeah, like, I hope everybody's enjoyed a trip down memory lane.
Way off topic. Sorry, y'all. Back to the
but nevertheless, back to topic. Would anyone like to do an intro? Because this is an amazing bunch of people. Tom and I are the ones that are like, you know.
No. Glory. Don't sell yourself short. You and Tom are the only two people who have cracked up the whole secret blah of my sci-fi without me telling you. So no, don't sell yourself short. This is a very insightful bunch. It's a great group. What am I doing here?
Well, I'll put it this way. You're definitely within good company, for sure. Would anyone like to start? You don't have to. It's not obligatory. I'm just offering. And if anybody's wondering,
I can do a very quick
everybody's links are down below. Everybody's wonderful, delicious links are down below, y'all.
Okay. Hi. I think everyone in the chat knows me already, but if you don't, my name is Zara Hoffman. I'm the self-published author of 5, soon to be 6 novels, and many more are forthcoming. I stream writing sprints on YouTube and Twitch a lot, and I also sometimes remember to make sit-down videos about writing or musical theater on my AuthorTube channel.
Talk slower? No.
Thank you.
I'll go next. Oh, no. Brett.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Oh, okay. I'll go. Oh, yes. I have 2 out of my 3 book babies because I don't have the second one, but here's my first one. And here's my third one. And I'm working on my 4th one. They're available on Amazon and anywhere you can buy ebooks. I make videos when I remember to. I stream when I can. And I try to be here most Mondays, but sometimes it just doesn't work out. I think that's it. Oh, and all my links are down below. I also have another channel. It's my family travel channel because we live in RV and we're getting ready to head east into Montana and elsewhere.
Yay. By the way, y'all, I have been watching all the 5 Find Freedom YouTube channel videos, and they are so cute and they are so interesting, and also they are deliciously brief, so I enjoy it. Keeps my attention span is what I'm trying to say. So highly recommend. If you want to like just kind of enjoy like random campgrounds, highly recommend. As well as like random children, you know.
Yeah, it's much easier to do that channel because I'm always behind the camera. I'm rarely on camera unless I'm like holding it and I'm filming myself. But yeah, there's a lot of videos over there. I just looked through it the other day because I hadn't looked for a while. Because when we first got in the RV, we traveled in the southwest of the U.S. in the summertime because that's what you should do, right? It was a little warm. And then we got to like West Texas, like Amarillo, and then we decided not to go all the way to Louisiana because it was hot. And we went north a little bit. It was fun. Yes, I'm glad you're enjoying the videos, Glory.
So do check that out down below. Barrett or Doll? Anybody? Barrett? Okay.
I'll go, yeah. Hi, everybody. My name is Barrett Laurie. Over on my channel, I talk about trying to break into traditional publishing, and I'm about to do a content shift and focus more on my background in content digital marketing and talk more about how authors can use that in my canned content. But I also live stream pretty regularly with self-published authors to kind of promote their books and visit with them about their craft. And I also talk about Crohn's disease because I also have a butt disease. So if you're into that, all of that is over on my channel, and the link is in the description below.
Thank you.
I have to watch your content more often. I love that. Love that. Okay, I think it's my turn.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Let's go.
All right. How do I turn it? Hello there, humans. I am Delsa Silverino. I'm the author of that book over here on screen. That's why I turned on the camera. And it's going back off in 3, 2, 1. Hi.
Ignore that person on the screen before. That was my assistant.
Yeah, they were just assistant.
I'm the author of that super short story, which is a thriller noir. It's called Danger. It's set in Iceland, and it's very, 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 very asexual pride. So, and also lots of murders and shit because thriller. So yeah, mostly I write sci-fi, but it's pride, and I'm heavily promoting danger because ace character. But yes, I'm a partially blind author. I write mostly sci-fi, short stories in many genres, and a little bit of poetry. My YouTube channel is undergoing a sabbatical, or however you want to call that. I'm taking a short break of a year, or whatever. I could start making my videos earlier than just a year, but I'm taking a time out to redefine my brand and my content on YouTube. Meanwhile, I'm focusing on my Instagram. And if you want to follow me and see what I'm up to in real time, you can just follow me there at Delsa Silverino. That's me.
Thank you.
That's the weirdest. That was the weirdest intro I've done. I hear noises in the background, and my thought just ran.
No, it was good. It was good. I love the countdown to the camera going back off. You're like, and going off in 3, 2, 1.
Too much science fiction.
Cue the camera ends. Yes. Tom, would you like to do anything?
Sure.
Tell us about your new account, Tom's Hot Takes.
Yes, Tom's Hot Takes. Because I read a lot of stories I feel are not mainstream enough, and so I wanted to start giving sort of the best of like what would make me think about reading this story for people who maybe haven't found it. Like I find a lot of them through the Bard Library of Congress for the visually impaired system a lot, and I will find them later, on mainstream stuff, but they never really hit it big. So it's like, yeah, let's give these stories another take.
Excellent, and the links are down below.
I'm enjoying that new Instagram a lot.
All right, I guess I'll put myself in the hot seat. It's only fair. Hi, I'm Glory. You are on my channel. I hope you are having a good time. And if you are, please consider clicking the like button, subscribing, ringing the bell if you haven't already, so you always get notifications. And if you've done all that and you are still having an absolutely peachy keen time, maybe sharing with other people to let them know about our show. That would be awesome. Please feel free to also retweet any of my stuff or share with people on Instagram, whatever you've got. We love it. It helps people find us. So thank you so much. So that's there. It's over. I know you think like I have a YouTube account and yet I do not like seeing my own face. Hello, Everett. Okay, so now we have done with all the formalities.
You got to give your pitch about why pitches are important before we can go into why pitches are important.
Yes.
I said don't make it a drinking game.
Okay. So, first off, we've started our drinking game. Anytime you hear the word pitch, drink. Whether it's water, coffee, you drink, y'all. So
we're going to need 3 bio breaks.
You got to flush those kidneys, y'all. Hey, Amy, it's lovely to see you. So, here's my pitch for why pitches are important. The thing about pitches and crafting a pitch, because it's really about the act of crafting it, even if you never show your pitch to another soul. The act of crafting your pitch requires you to really figure out what is the through line in your story, in your narrative, in the product you're trying to, convince other people they might want for whatever their purposes are. Whatever you're doing, you need to have essentially a good, strong idea that you can say succinctly. And the only way to do that is to practice writing pitches. I suggest if you don't have anything to practice, try writing pitches for other books. Try writing pitches for other movies. Anything. How about other people's parties? If you like it enough, even share it with them. They might enjoy like your pitch. Please feel free. Like in every show we do, in our description, the first paragraph is essentially our pitch. Stephanie, is it just a lot of background noise?
No, there's a ton of background noise.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm just gonna get off then because there's not much I can do about it.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I'll just hop into chat. Well, my kids are talking literally 3 feet away, so there's not much I can do about it. But I'll hop in the chat. I'll still watch. There's not much I can do about it because they're inside.
I mean,
no, it's okay. I told you to let me know. So, yeah, they're just talking, playing
Stephanie,
and working, talking.
But Stephanie,
No,
you can mute and
when
someone else is talking, and you have something to say, you could just that would be totally fine.
Okay, I'll do that then. Okay.
Yeah, because we want to hear what you have to say. A lot.
Okay.
Yeah, don't leave. It's yeah.
All right. I'll unmute when I talk. How's that?
That would be great.
Okay.
Thank you. So that is, I honestly don't remember where it was, but that is my pitch about why pitches are really helpful to everyone. I got into writing pitches as sort of a Mad Lib situation when I was doing home parties. And you essentially need an elevator pitch for every product. So what I noticed was it made me better at communicating with people about anything. So anyhow, there's my
well,
pitch.
let me go on a little bit on.
Yeah.
I mean, that's essentially what I'm doing with the hot takes. It's a pitch style because it's like, what are the best parts of the story that make it most interesting? The other part about pitches and why this is about both. This month is about things that are both for being published as well as for your community and your readers. And the other part about pitches being so important is that they're hooks. They're something, you need to practice just hooking your readers as well. You're making an interesting little thought that people want to explore more. So it's the same thing you need for your story to put throughout constantly is you hook them with a new idea. And you want it to pay off as well. Like, you don't want to have, a fake idea that doesn't actually end up in your story. You want, what are the most interesting aspects? And so doing the pitches, and doing pitches is the same thing of what's your overall story's most interesting idea? But then you have, lesser hooks and pitches in your story for, why do you want to read the next chapter? And we were talking last night with some of Gloria's older stories of one in particular of how this is a good first chapter, but I would end it in a hook kind of way with a line and if I knew then what I know now, I would have just let him tell me his 5-minute message. It would have been so much easier. It pays off. It's not a problem, but there's a reason for the reader to then read into the next chapter. You're saying, Zara?
Yeah, I have an example of when a pitch doesn't fully deliver. So for those of you who don't know, I'm in a publishing program, a master's degree at NYU, and it's literally all about publishing. It's not just book publishing. Sometimes it's also magazine media, but I'm focusing more on book publishing for obvious reasons. And last semester, I had to write so many different pitches for different things. And for my book acquisition and editing class, I had to pick a book and then write the book description, which is basically a pitch. And I chose The Golden Compass. And oh my God, I had read the book because my cousin.
I love that book.
Right. And it's amazing. And my cousins had told me to read it and I loved it. But if you read the original book description it was published with, you're like, who would pick this up? And then I wrote one and it like sounds like an epic fantasy that it is. And the other one like didn't even touch on that. And I'm like, you left out all the world building, which is the main selling point of your story. What happened here?
I didn't read, like, my finding of The Golden Compass was by accident. I think the UK title is The Northern Lights.
It is.
Yes. So I'm a sucker for Northern Lights. Everybody knows that about me. My Instagram is like, Aurora Borealis. This chick writes sci-fi for sure. And everybody knows I love it. So I am the kind of person who, when feels very stressed and anxious, and I can't sleep and battling insomnia and all that stuff, I just play random videos of Aurora Borealis until I fall asleep. So it was a winter night. I was I was having a hard time. Exam period in Budapest. It was really difficult. And I was like, I need to watch some of Northern Lights. And then I saw the Northern Lights and it was a 10-hour long video, but the screen was black. So I was like, interesting. Maybe it's one of those where the auroras appear after a certain point and blah, blah, blah. I was just figuring out what that video was. Then I click the video and it's like, whatever company audio presents The Northern Lights by Philip Pullman. I was like, whoa, there's a book about it. Whoa, I need to read this. It's about the Northern Lights. And then it's like chapter 1, The Decanter of Tokaj. I was like, Tokaj? That's Hungarian wine. And I was in Budapest. So I was like, okay,
I'm all in.
It was a good hook. Yeah.
No description, no blurb, no pitch, no nothing. Chapter 1, The Decanter of Tokaj. I lived in Hungary. I was there at the time I found it. I was like, this is for me. I don't know what it is, but I love it. And I just couldn't put it. I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't put it down.
I didn't either when I read it. But can I read the original description? And
do it.
And people who've read it, you'll know why this is bad. And then I'll read the version that I wrote, and you'll understand why. At the very least,
I'm excited.
It's better. Okay, so it's a very short original description. Lyra is rushing to the cold far north where witch clans and armored bears rule. North where the gobblers take the children they steal, including her friend Roger. North where her fearsome uncle Azrael is trying to build a bridge to a parallel world. Can one girl make a difference in such great and terrible endeavors? This is Lyra, a savage, a schemer, a liar, and as fierce and true a champion as Roger or Azrael could want. But what Lyra doesn't know is that to help one of them will be to betray the other. And if you read the book,
I love it.
If you read the book, you get what it's not like it's pulling stuff that doesn't exist,
right?
But it's not promising the whole thing. Whereas there was another book that I had to write a pitch for a different class last semester where it included something in the pitch and we're like, that happened for 2 seconds in the book. That does not belong in the pitch because we thought it was going to be a much bigger part. But then here's the description I wrote where, in a world where people's souls are bare, dangerous secrets abound. Lyra Balakwa has the heart of an adventurer, but is stuck at Stuffy Jordan College at the behest of her uncle, Lord Azrael. After sneaking into a presentation about his latest trip north, she begs him to take her with him. He refuses, saying Oxford is safer for a young girl, but he's wrong. Children are going missing daily, and one of them is Lyra's best friend, Roger. When a mysterious woman appears with an offer that will give Lyra the adventure she desperately desires, she accepts on the condition that they search for him. But little does she know that Mrs. Coulter is part of a plot to silence the truth and take away everyone she loves. Equipped with only the alethiometer, a truth-telling compass, and her animal spirit, Lyra must strike out on her own to find her friend and learn about the mysterious substance called dust that has all the adults perturbed. The two are inextricably linked, and the consequences are cataclysmic. It goes into a lot more.
Yeah, but I like it too. Now, the thing is, I'm a sucker for the North. So that sold me. The old one sold me a little bit more because it's about the far north and a parallel universe. So that got me more. The one that you wrote. No. Let me finish. The one that you wrote is amazing and it's modern. It's for today, but it reads more like a thriller with a fantasy. Yeah.
I mean, that is what it is, because it is from Lyra's perspective, and that is what is happening. Whereas before, it just says she wants to go up north and she can't. Whereas here, it's like she wants to go up north, and here are the reasons why she's shouldn't, and why she's and how she's going to, and why they're a lot closer together. Than
so that actually does kind of bring up a key point Glory and I have been kind of getting back to a couple times with writing, which is finding your audience, targeting your audience. And those two pitches, well, those two blurbs, really show case in point. The original one was very much a product of its time. That is how, if you read any blurb about a YA book from between 2003 to 2007, it's going to sound the exact same.
Exactly.
Because they were all appealing to the kids in the same way. Welcome to trends. And yeah, yours is a little bit more of the time now. And how we're trying to reach people. But also, though, it's what is your audience expecting? What is it interested in? And you need to speak to that audience.
The promise of the premise. And if you don't deliver on what that thing is, then you're more likely to have readers get to the end, or at least me, and I'll do a big giant WTF, why did I just read this whole thing if it didn't, right? So, I don't know. That's, So, and the other thing I would just say is it also points out that pitches are super subjective.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was trying to say. I'm not diminishing Zara's work.
No. I didn't think you were.
No, I didn't either. I didn't read that way. What I was going to say is I helped people do Pit Mad for probably 4 or 5 years before I got braved up enough to do it myself. And it was because the advice someone in my writing group gave me a long time ago, and he was published way before me. But she said, don't go into Pit Mad and start querying until you can pitch your book successfully in the grocery store. And I said, what do you mean? She goes, until someone walks up to you in the grocery store and says, what's your book about? And you can, in 2 sentences, tell them what it's about.
I suck at this.
You're not ready. And I took that advice and I took it to heart. And I really did. And I got in groups where I helped people do their pitches from 17 and 18. And I was just sitting there like wanting to jump in so bad. But every time I'd go to a group meeting, someone would be like, hey, what's your book about? Whatever it was at the time. And I'd be like, oh, it's a thing. And 4 paragraphs later, they'd be like, so I'm, And anyway, long story short, I think it points out that I would love things in those groups and say, oh, that's a killer pitch, lead with that one. And somebody else would say, hey, this one spoke to me more, lead with this one. And they lead with that one. And that was the big hit, or vice versa. It's all so subjective to what.
It really is subjective.
Well, it's like Glory was
multiple ones. It's also recommended that you have multiple ones that are. You should have ones that are a different length. First of all, for different. I mean, like that reminded platforms, but then also just so you know that like you can tailor it to certain types of people.
Right.
But also that kind of reminded me about on I think it was a Saturday stream chat, and their discussion came up about older books and the when they reach pulp, how there will be 10 different covers for the same book, and how each one is true to the story but really gets at very different aspects of that story, and so would appeal to different groups of people. It's not that if you like this cover versus this one, oh, the story's not for you. There's a lot of different ways to tailor it. And so again, that ability to pitch and to hook people really comes in handy in that don't just have one approach. You need to just have fun and play with it. Just like, you play pretend when you're a kid, and you need to be able to be different people when you're pretending. You can't just always be the same one character.
I have a very strong mental barrier that I have to break, because I feel like the way that things are pitched in our times today don't really appeal to me. They don't. I'd go into a book without reading any blurbs because I just, everything sounds kind of like formulaic. Even if the book is not, every blurb sounds kind of like the blurb structure. And that already gives me like a bad feeling, because I like things that aren't so common. I don't like formula. As soon as I spot your formula, I'm out. I don't like it. So I feel like I belong in a different time. And therefore, I feel like I will never sell my books because I cannot adapt to the formula. And I just try and try. Not happening. Not happening.
Let me just say on that, that's a totally different topic. But the truth of the matter is it's about finding your reader. And they are out there. Now, how
they
big
exist.
they are and how you reach them, that's the conversation we should be having there. It's because it's your readers are out there. There are readers for everyone. It's just a matter of finding them and connecting your content with them.
That's hard. That's the biggest struggle I'm having always.
It's not something that comes naturally. And I think a lot of people see me on AuthorTube. I know definitely people who I've had on my channel as guest hosts where I'm like, oh, I'm happy to have anyone. And then they come on and they're like, oh my God, you seem so put together. I'm like, thanks. I'm not. Thank you.
It's an illusion.
And it's like my confidence has come from self-publishing 5 books. And like I am now confident in that, like I know how to pitch my books in ways that like readers who have read my books like, and Regina Duke has read all my books, and Nia Vixen of Fiction, who's also in the comments, is like in the process of reading all my books. And like I, even before I found those readers though, they didn't find me and I didn't find them until I had started AuthorTube, is that the more you do it, the more comfortable you get. And it's not that like you get stuck in a rut and you don't listen to new feedback if you get it, because you should always be trying to learn. But when you find something that works for you and you're not constantly worried that like, I think this works for me, but it doesn't seem like it works for everyone else. Like that, it's the balance is a lot harder to manage when you're not sure about yourself on your own, much less with the input of other people. Like it gets better.
Agreed. And I haven't written 5 books. So, I mean, I have, but they're definitely not published. So, but I definitely have not done that. So, but I agree with the advice, because I would say you're being too hard on yourself, I think. If you're thinking of tossing in the towel before you've ever taken the leap.
No, I've taken the leap. But like you were talking about that in PitMat, I write adult sci-fi.
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah. I get it.
It's I'm never gonna say I'm throwing in the towel before I try, and and let me tell you, I've been trying a lot, but they just don't want what I have. It was what Glory was saying about a dry well. So if you know the well is dry, what are you doing there? Yeah, so that's why I'm not trying PitMat anymore. I see there's very much YA. Fantasy, romance, and for adults it's like romance, thrillers, nonfiction, fiction, whatever. Where is the sci-fi? I don't know. So if it's not at PitMat, I'm not trying that anymore.
I wonder, have you considered any of the other pitch contests? Like, for example, I'll tell you, I've now done PitMat 3 times, but the most success I've ever had in a pitch contest was LGBT in Pit. That was by far my most successful.
This particular sci-fi trilogy is not necessarily LGBTQ.
Well, no, right. But I'm saying I could send you a list. Like I'll find you in the group thing on Glory's, group thing with us, and I'll
send
it to you. But there is a list. I couldn't believe it. My friend sent me. There's like 50 or 60 pitch contests on Twitter, and
wow.
They go all different.
And there are genre specific ones too. Because when I was interning at the literary agency, my boss was like, here, read all the pitches I got for this one pitch contest. And it was one that was Thriller Pit or something. And then the year, obviously. Wow. And it all thriller, or I mean, some of the queries, I'm like, do you know what a thriller is? But in general, they were all thrillers. And, like, because he was looking for thrillers. So he was on that, but he hasn't been part of other, I mean, now he's close to queries. But like, the point is that agents will go to what they want. And sometimes agents who are just, either building their list or are genuinely interested in all types of stories, they might participate in PitMat or something like that. But there are more focused ones. And I am blanking on the name of a sci-fi fantasy one that I had heard about. And if I can remember it, I will message you.
It's gotta be sci-fi alone. It's gotta be sci-fi alone. If it's sci-fi fantasy, people will go pick up the fantasy and leave the sci-fi behind. Sorry, but I've seen that. And no, it's gotta be sci-fi alone. It's gotta be strictly
I'll try and find
sci-fi.
it.
Thank you. No, I'm just with Maggie here in the comments where she said a while ago that like PitMat reminded her of the toxicness of traditional publishing, and yeah. I'm with Maggie because I've seen it too, and the only reason why I am in traditional publishing is because I don't have the money to self-publish professionally. So if I cannot self-publish professionally, I will not do that because I have high standards for my work. I want it to be the best it can be, and I am partially blind. Let's be real. Let's be honest. I have a sensory disability. I cannot, for the life of me, self-publish a book without a professional editor. That's not going to happen. So, no. And that's the only reason why I'm pursuing traditional. It really is the only reason. If I could self-publish professionally, like high quality stuff, I would be doing that already. No problem.
I saw some comments about formatting woes, about like why different agencies and small publishers, and the reason, and I know it's a pain in the ass for writers, but one of the reasons that they're very specific about formatting is just to see how well authors follow instructions, because they get so much BS even after posting instructions that like it's a pain for them, and it's a way to weed out people, unfortunately. But also they probably all use different formatting software, and they're trying to make it as easy on themselves as possible so that they can do the work that needs to be done, whether that's editing or promoting or whatever. And agents, the fact that any agent who I've ever worked for has a personal life is beyond me, and I would like that when I eventually become an agent. But unless you like set very good boundaries at the very start, theoretically your clients could be messaging you at any hour of the day with a freak out about something going wrong, and it's publishing with lots of different stages and people involved. So something can go wrong at any point in the process. So the reason that they're also specific is so that they can cut down on the BS from people that they're not already working with on a regular basis, because they've already chosen to take a chance on certain writers, and they know that stuff is going to come up, but they can't offer that opportunity to everyone without like ruining their own mental health by being stretched and stuff.
Yeah,
but
that's an excellent point. I mean, agents are human too. They have a life too. And I'm very aware of that, so that's why I don't trash agents. I'm just like, I don't know where to go to get mine. That's
you don't, but I've seen people on Twitter a few weeks ago or a month ago at this point, and they were trashing it, and I like retweeted something where I was like, look, I know that like as an author it's really frustrating to not get an agent immediately. But like these agents are working their ass off all the time.
They really
for
are.
Everyone that they're already working for. So please remember that they're human, because the ones I've worked for are wonderful human beings and don't deserve the hate you're giving them.
Exactly.
I imagine all agents are there because they love working in this industry. They love bringing stories and helping essentially birth stories out into the public.
They don't get paid well. They could quit and try to become editors with a steady salary, and some people have done that. People who are agents are there literally for the love of books, who love helping other authors, which is why I want to be an agent. And for people who like hate on them, I'm like, oh, my heart is crying for all the agents out there.
Me too. I'm not an agent, but I have two that are friends that are not in my category, or I obviously would have been like, hey, nudge, nudge. But the things they've told me, like when I was preparing for my little queries, getting ready for my querying this time finally, the things they told me blew my mind. But like one of the ones that stuck with me, I even did a whole video focused on it in my query thing about it, was people responding to a rejection with some sort of like hateful comment or like something kind of flippant. And I honestly, it shocked me. I was like, would you really? Like if you're, and maybe it's like that I work professionally, like I'm older than some. So I worked for a while, so maybe it was
honey, we're all
send an email that way. That I just it took me by surprise, and they were like, "If you knew how often, like people will say something, and sometimes it's just flippant little stuff, but sometimes it's full on like hateful. You don't know what you're saying.
No. It is actually wrong. It is like bad etiquette to reply to rejections.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Totally. I mean,
the same way you shouldn't reply to reviews, like
the same way.
However, you're published traditionally or indie published. some people say never read reviews, and I'm like, I don't know about that. Like, I read them, and if someone is like clearly trolling a hate review, I'm like, whatever. You didn't read the book,
Right.
or you decide to read this book that's clearly in this genre. Going back to pitches, and then you ragged on everything in the genre. So I don't know why you paid to read my book in the first place. But if you get a bad review and it's like a well thought out review and it has criticism in it that like hurts your feelings, okay, it hurt your feelings. That's valid. That's sad. It's going to happen, but don't reply. You can say thank you to happy reviews.
Well, I mean, like, you know, the old rule growing up when I was a kid was if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and it's not like to be toxically positive, but simply you can just say thank you for your feedback and move on. You know, just move on. Just don't give in to the desire.
Same thing as we keep trying to teach people now of don't feed the trolls.
Yes. Exactly.
Stop feeding the trolls.
The few times I've replied to a rejection, there were 2 rejections that got me feedback, some direct feedback. One of them was very kind. They just said, they told me almost literal words from what I remember. I can.
Oh, did we lose Doll?
I think so.
Can I make one more quick point on this?
Absolutely, and then we'll go to break.
I would also advise, just because I have several friends that have been doing it, it gives me the cringies every time. Maybe not every like moment of your rejection inbox in Twitter, like so we all go through it with you. Like I get it, I understand the reasoning behind it. However, I still think I would advise that if I were an agent, I would be looking at that person and thinking, this might be high maintenance when we're out on submission to editors. So consider whether you want to go through every feeling, emotion, and moment of your process for the world to see, or whether you want to tamper that a little bit. Or
what Barrett said.
Stephanie, did you have something to jump in before we go to break?
No, I was just like, okay, so I don't have that many reviews. So like I check my my on Amazon where I have my paperbacks. I check there every so often, and I was like, oh look, I have a starred review. That's nice. And then like several weeks go by, and I was beyond ecstatic that someone took the time to write a wordy review. Like someone took the time to read the book and then come back and like type it up and then wait for Amazon to review to approve the review or not, because sometimes they don't approve your review for whatever reason. And this person, that I don't even know the person, so that was even why it was even more exciting, because the person that reviewed the book I don't know in real life in any way, shape, or form. So that was even nicer, more validation, I guess.
Yeah, like a stranger liked it.
Like a stranger liked it. A stranger took the time to write it, and like, yeah, they gave me some like criticism in the review, but it wasn't like your book sucks, I'm gonna write again. It was like, this was good, but this could have been better, that sort of thing. So I appreciated that, but I could not even imagine like replying to someone's review, like a review, even if it was a bad review, because it's everyone's opinion for the most part, like whether or not they liked your book. I mean, sometimes you're like, I saw a review one time, someone said that Stonehenge was not enough rocks or too many rocks at Stonehenge. So like literally, which is like all rocks.
So, like, what were you expecting? A hot dog stand?
Someone on YouTube, but I can't remember what channel it is because I didn't get to watch it, but I only added it to my watch later. But it said reading reviews of the Bible, and some of them were so funny.
I saw that. That was funny.
Right?
So I mean,
yeah, that one is funny. Like
you know, yourself. People's opinions are just opinions, and whether or not they like your book or not. I'm just saying I was happy that someone took the time to write it. So you should just be appreciative that someone actually read your book, regardless if they fell in love with your writing or not.
Agreed. Absolutely.
For the most part, unless they're like real douchebags and like just yell at you and say that you wanted more romance and it wasn't a romance book or whatever.
And even
and then again, I just go, well, I think this person is not necessarily, understanding the nature of what I've written. Well, I'm going to just, Strange Eons, just so everybody knows. Definitely.
I'm just saying, if that is still good. right? Your bad review will still help you with the Amazon algorithm.
It does with the algorithm. It does help. So
go ahead and just live in that moment and say, you know what, you write all the hateful things you want.
Right. It's sort of like people downvote the YouTube videos. It's like, thank you. You are helping me.
I was excited when I got haters. I was
I'll take it. But on that note, I hate to cut everyone off, but how about we do a bio break and then we come back with the energy because I'm loving how it's going. I will see you all in just a few minutes. beep, 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 beep. Yay! You all made it.
Should I put my actual puppy on screen?
Yes, show us your pets, your children, the loves of your life, your book babies at least. Tom made popcorn in case you didn't know what the ASMR is.
I made brown sugar oatmeal.
Hello, Fluffy.
Oh my God.
The
Hello, my darling. Hello, my darling. Mwah, you're so cute.
Fans, Riley.
What's your name?
Riley.
Riley. Hi, Riley.
Oh.
Just picture the most fluffy black and white dog that you can, doll. And she looks like a stuffed animal.
It's a papillon. I mean, I used to be a dog sitter and dog walker, like a pet sitter, not just dogs, cats, bunnies, whatever, snakes, maybe, anything. And one of my favorite dogs that basically was like a little sister to me, almost, was a papillon.
Oh, Riley's a Havanese.
Oh,
Riley
thought it was-
like,
Yeah, a little bit bigger.
like Riley's like, I was napping. What's going on?
Yes. Oh.
She was napping. She hates ring light too, so I'm probably gonna put her down after this.
hi, Riley.
Good, baby.
Mwah.
Aw.
You're so cute.
Who's the cutest cutie?
So everyone, I hope everyone's enjoyed their puppy breaks.
Puppy break.
The puppy timer was made by Laura Nettles. It is in my timer playlist if anybody is interested, so that they can find it easily, as well as there's tons of other timers, obviously.
I still owe you the volcano timer.
One day. One day.
One day when I come back.
Yes. So if anybody wants to check out Laura Nettles' channel or her wonderful puppy timer that has little bits of Roy, her puppy, in there, that is the timer. Yes.
Laura says her puppy should be here on the 26th.
Oh, can't wait.
Yes. Cannot wait.
More puppies.
Yes. Yes. I am very, very excited. Even though that puppy is literally going to live 2,000 miles away from me, but I'm like, can we get a full Roy timer? He could just be sleeping. I would be fine.
I want all of my AuthorTube friends to get puppies because they should know the joy of having a puppy.
Agreed.
It's really what I want. I mean, I would love to meet the puppy, but even if I never meet the puppy, as long as you have the happiness of having a puppy,
Yes.
I'm happy for you.
Share that joy with all of us.
Does having kittens count?
Yeah, I mean, if you have a pet, that's great. I'm a dog person, but I'm not an anti-cat person.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I don't discriminate. We just happen to have cats.
Yeah. I don't
So
discriminate.
that's
I just
what I
don't
have
know many
available.
people
We
with
have
cats in real life.
kittens.
Well, we used to have a cat
I'm
for
one.
the longest time, but then Glory knows this. We had to give it away because she's not a traveler, and well, we're traveling now, and we traveled 17 miles, and she peed on herself in the car.
Aw.
So yeah, she's not a good traveling
Good for
companion.
traveling. Yeah.
Yeah, my husband keeps on asking if we can get a dog, and before I say the next part, my husband is a double below the knee amputee. So I tell him, sure, we can get a dog when you can get off your butt in your legs outside in the middle of winter and make sure the dog doesn't pee in the house. If you can manage that, then yes, we can get a dog. So it's fine. Like, he has a good humor about it. Like, I make jokes about his legs and like me kicking him with his foot or whatever. It's fine. Like, he's more of a optimistic person when it comes to that sort of thing. So
You're just
don't
like,
come
not
after me. Don't
Yeah.
come after me for like degrading someone with a disability because
No, Stephanie, no.
I'm just like anyone who's watching this later on. Like he just makes joke of it. He's always made a joke about it.
Like,
And I didn't know him, and I didn't know him before he lost his legs. I've only known him without his legs, like his real body part. You know what I mean? I can't.
Yeah.
Words. I swear I work in words, but I didn't get my subscription. Didn't come in today. I promise.
I did not know he had fake legs until we went on our first date, which is a blind date. And then he told me. So that's how I found out.
Yeah.
From AuthorTube, I know people with cats, but that's Joey Paul. She has cats, lots of cats. Joey's Instagram is just cats all over the place. I have cats. She has cats. Who else has cats? Ooh, no, she's not on AuthorTube anymore. There are a lot of people with cats and dogs and
Kelly
pets.
Wright has cats. Holly Davis has a cat and a dog.
Yeah, Holly Davis. Yes, she has a cat as well.
There are others, and I'm blanking on them.
Robert has a cat.
Becca C. Smith has a cat named Snake. That just there are others. Why am I blanking? Oh, well, Kate Kavanaugh now has a kitten named Vinny.
Yeah. Story Detective has a cat as well. I know he joined a couple of streams before. He was here.
He did. Next time, he will be on. We got it written down. Yeah, I think Robert's next week. Yes. Robert will, in theory anyway, be joining us on the 14th for Unlocking Demographics and Branding. Along with Zara and Doll.
Yay! I'm going.
Other people could. I don't know. Barrett's like, I have plans.
Yeah.
Barrett's like, I have more of a life than any of you. So
I have a life Wednesday, so I'm like, sorry guys, not on the week of the infusions. I just don't feel well. I love you, but I can't.
Yeah.
I pre-recorded those whole weeks.
But I may or may not be here. I'll be here in the chat, but it really depends on where internet strength is, what's happening.
So maybe a Steph, I'll put a mystery one. I'll put that.
I love the mystery guest.
Yeah, because it's like Zara asked me one time, like, who's the mystery guest? I'm like, I never know.
Now we can mystery for you too, because I thought it was just a mystery for like the audience.
Oh no,
I don't know
my mystery. I just share my mystery with y'all.
By the way, that is not always she's promising something. Is she delivering? Like, premise back to the pitch situation.
Are you dragging Glory on her own channel?
Your thumbnails are pitches.
They are.
Yeah,
they're meant to be.
So, Barrett, you said you have infusions. Do you do them weekly, or how often do you do them?
Monthly. I have Crohn's, and it's pretty severe. So most people who get the infusions I get them every 8 weeks, 12 weeks or 8 weeks. And I've gotten mine slowly closer and closer together until I can get into remission, because I've been in this flare since October of 2019.
Okay.
Oh no! I was
just asking because I get infusions every 6 months, and they kick my butt for like a day or two afterwards, maybe 3 days afterwards, because I don't sleep for like a whole 30 hours since I get some steroids in with my infusion.
Okay, I did steroids, which is how I gained all this weight and like blew up this last year, and finally they took me off of them, and I was like, guys, I can't get through doors. I don't know what's going on. Like, I've gained 70 pounds in a year. Help.
Okay.
And so they changed steroids, and I feel much better. And they just needed to get my infusions closer together. Big fight with my insurance company. This is not what we're here about. But I do talk about it on my channel. So if you are a criminal person wanting to figure out how to fight your insurance company, I got a video about that. So
hey,
I might send that video to my friend who has Crohn's.
So I don't.
I'm very much here for everyone's pitches about all their other channels, all their other videos they have. Yeah. Go for it. By the way, I wanted to mention Regina has a lovely story about puppy training and puppy competition or dog training, that she put in the chat while we were on a bio break.
I saw it.
And I very much enjoy everybody's stories in the chat. I just wanted to say.
Hey, bravo! Look.
I just saw the word papillon somewhere.
Today,
it was Regina's dog Buster.
Today is the show that I get to just sit back and say nothing. That's literally what I was telling Tom when he came in during the bio break. I'm like, I don't even know why I bothered to put on makeup. I could just literally lounge here. And we have finally hit on something where I don't ever have to say a word, but hey, we're going to break again, y'all. Literally, that's my job. I am happy to be the peanut gallery, by the way, y'all.
This is so cute.
So, I was asking about the infusion. I don't have Crohn's. I have MS, and that's what I do my infusions for, and it's every 6 months. But, I was just curious how often you had yours.
How do you feel after?
Okay, so it's like So I sit in this uncomfortable chair for like 6 to 7 hours, and my entire spine is fused. So if I go to sleep because of the Benadryl I have on board to help combat any side effects, if I fall asleep in the chair, my body just hurts from sitting in one position for so long. And so it's either one or two ways. Either I never sleep that night. Like I pull an all-nighter because of the drugs I have in my system. And so either for like the next two days, I'm like, I have a burst of energy because I feel really good. Or B, I'm like, total crap, I'm doing nothing, I'm down for the count. You can all have cereal for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I don't care. Like, I'm done. So it's either one of two ways. Sometimes there's times I used to get the infusion done on Mondays, and I would have bowling on Monday night. There would be times I could go bowling and be totally fine. Other times, I got to get a sub. So it just kind of varies. And then it's supposed to last a whole 6 months, but I can feel all of my neurologists, other patients call it the crap gap, because you feel like crap in the middle of you getting your next one. So I usually can start it feeling like going away after like 4.5 months. So about the last month and a half, my energy level is worse. It's just, so it just kind of varies. I don't even know what it varies on. The moon, the stars in the sky, who knows? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how it varies. Sometimes I'll try to force myself to stay awake. Other times I've read a whole book while I'm sitting there and get up and move around. I don't know. But once either the surge of energy or me staying awake for a couple of days goes back to normal, I feel much better. My memory's better, my word recall is better, my balance is better, my energy level is a little bit better. And I don't feel like I'm always walking like I'm drunk, feeling better. So that's good. And yeah, my insurance doesn't want to pay for this particular drug I'm taking because it's kind of new, but the drug company itself pays for it. Good. So there's that.
Good. And we'll get off this topic, and I'll let Glory, sorry, we took your thing in a whole other direction. I will tell people, if you're having trouble paying for some of your meds and you have Crohn's, contact me through DM on Instagram, and I will connect you directly with the companies, and you can see if you can get price breaks if you were underinsured.
Thank you. I think that's an important plug, quite honestly.
Yeah, just DM me and I can connect you depending on what your med is. And I only know Crohn's, but I'm sure
Author Network will resolve all your problems.
Right.
Once we know enough people and know their little handy dandy little specialty, we will the network, we will be unstoppable.
So can I ask the group a pitch and query question that I've been wondering?
Yeah.
So I have my own way. And I've noticed in my little writing group, everybody has their way, their method. Is that a universal thing? Does everybody feel they have their own way of writing a pitch or writing a query that they could tell someone in a paragraph?
I've never done either, so I don't know.
I do and I don't, but I don't have a formula. What I try to do sometimes is my pitch for Twitter, for example, Twitter pitches. And Zara has seen this. My pitches rhyme sometimes,
which I like, and
I think that makes you stand out.
It makes you stand out. And you always say, you're like, "Oh, my pitches rhyme," as if you were apologizing. I'm like, stop.
I'm gonna look through Twitter and see if I retweeted you, because that's gonna be even funnier if you're one of the ones I sent to someone that rhymed. And
no, I haven't participated in the recent PitMat. I gave up after March. I think March was my last try, and I say, enough.
So good chance.
Hey, Glory, should I say what's our usual inspiration?
Say it.
For anyone who ever watched SNL, Saturday Night Live. I change it enough so even in my hot takes, people don't notice as much. But if you go back and watch the skits, you'll suddenly go, "Wait a minute."
Yeah, that's our terrible. Wonderful
wait a minute.
I actually, I was like, well, I could pull up one of my book review articles from Dime Magazine, and you could actually see how I reviewed books, essentially their pitches, obviously, because we use this format from Stefan. You remember? It starts with, "This club has everything." and then proceeds to list insane.
No, New York's hottest nightclub is this. It has everything, and then they go into the weirdest things you've ever heard.
So what's your method? So what would you tell
Well, Stefan, there was literally like sort of almost a framework of Stefan's pitch for all of these nightclub ones, and that's what we used.
Got it.
And essentially it's each one builds up on the other, and then you finish with a reviewing of if the reader probably didn't understand one of your terms, here, let me expand it out. That makes it even more interesting and ridiculous.
Yeah.
To make it more memorable.
Yeah. Okay. What's yours?
Mine is, so I've only written romances so far, and I do have there is one romance that I have that's not going to be dual point of view, and I already wrote the pitch for that, so that's different than what I'm about to say. But for my 2 trilogies that are published, although the 3rd book in the 2nd trilogy doesn't come out until July 6th, is I have a tagline, and then I write about so I view my 2 love interests in the couple as both main characters, but there's always one that I'm writing more as a main character, if that makes sense. Yep. So I'll do my tagline, describe that person first and their problem, describe the other person and their problem, and then have a paragraph where it's this is how they come together or don't come together. And then I have a question at the end where it's basically, can they actually come together? And then because they're all part of series, I say title of book is the 1st, 2nd, 3rd book in this series, which is this genre.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And that's very genre specific, right? Because that's going to be true to romance. I want to know, at least in the romance I read, which is usually the gay ones, I like to know who both my people are.
Yeah, and I care about both people. And I love plots, and my characters and plot are very intertwined with each other. But it's a description for me. It's I want to know who I'm going to be, whose head I'm going to be in. Even if it's told in 3rd person limited, I'm still basically in their head. Right. I want to know what I'm signing up for. Because if it's someone who's in a situation that I'm not interested in, I'm not going to read your book. Sorry. Right.
Okay, I found Tom. I found the first one that I did was "Have I Got a Book for You?" That first article. Yeah. There's Rob Lowe's memoir, the Bert Kreischer's, Jenny Lawson's, and Mississippi Sissy by Kevin Sessoms. Do you have a preference which one I read?
Well, I mean, since Barrett was just talking, why would we talk about Mississippi Sissy and how do you pitch this?
Okay. If you were charmed reading The Little Princess and As I Lay Dying by Faulkner, you're going to flip your boat for Kevin Sessom's Southern Gothic exposition, Mississippi Sissy. This book has everything: felonious peeping, a Clarion Ledger murder, grinder-like KKK hookups, gay covert affairs, long-buried family secrets, interracial childhood BDSM, the homosexual diaspora, and a pickup truck load of sass.
Is there a link in the description below?
I feel like I had a stroke while hearing that, but I'm also very intrigued.
Me too. I'm where does it end? Okay, see?
This is actually a really excellent book, by the way, and I do highly recommend it, or I wouldn't have reviewed it. Yeah. Bonus, the audiobooks are all read by the authors, because there's several. I mostly listen to these audiobooks.
You have that audiobook read by the author. Love it.
Who committed these questionable life decisions for your listening pleasure as you drive through your SUV/Prius-filled personal dystopia. Pro tip: borrowing a book from your public library is like going on a date with a sweet-natured stripper. Don't worry if it turns out the book isn't to your liking. It's just happy for the attention and a chance to get out of the house library strip club once in a while.
I wish you were my librarian growing up.
Master class. Can you even imagine? I would have gone and been show me the queer stuff, and she'd been okay.
Lori, could you please rewrite my sci-fi pitches?
Sure. Okay, so hit Life of the Party by Bert Kreischer. If you loved reading L.A. Confidential and Huckleberry Finn, this train wreck confessional by Van Wilder inspiration Bert Kreischer is for you. This memoir has everything: Russian mobsters, Whitney Houston hanging out in dentist waiting rooms, maybe dead Tracy Morgan, a secret movie theater containing Will Smith, and an an amorous grizzly bear addicted to marshmallows and frisketing. You know, it's that thing where you ambush bigoted frat boys wearing their finery and you cover them in Bisquick and then hose them down.
I didn't, but now I do.
That's amazing.
That was my pitch for Bert Kreischer's.
But you had me at Huckleberry Finn. I'm like, I'm in. And then you started naming all these people. I was like,
right. Like, because I'm like, look, you need to know the hooks. This is why you will stick through this book. If you like these things, get ready for this date. Because that's to me, a book is a date.
I think we should talk about the fact that both of those include comp titles, which is something that traditional publishing wants you to do.
That is how I would go.
And you need to have them not older than 3 years. And if you're going to relate it to a very famous book, agents are probably going to roll their eyes at you.
Agreed.
Just gonna say. So, like, don't say, like, oh, you're the next 50 Shades or you're the next Twilight or you're the next Hunger Games. No, you're not.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And the only way you can get away, I think, and I just know this from doing it a number of times myself, and the first time I didn't do any comp titles because I didn't know that and learned with no hearts. The next time, suddenly I had comp titles to almost the exact same pitches, and suddenly it was a whole different ball game, magically. The other thing I would tell people about comp titles is it's an in your query letter. So if you do get a like from that agent, you can mention the pitch and you're pointing. It's not a cold call anymore. They've said they like what you have to say and what you're selling, and now you've got one more chance to hook them. And so prove that you can do more than the pitch in your blurb, and follow directions. So that's the only other thing I would say. Is follow the data.
Like, I would argue that, like, for agents, sure, you definitely need to try your best to find books that have been published within the last 3 to 5 years. Absolutely. But, like, for readers, go for any book ever, because a lot of people love reading classics.
100%.
But for agents, I would actually say, I thought it was 3 to 5, and then all my professors in this publishing program are like, oh no, it's 2 to 3 years. Yeah. So if you're like, oh, I had the perfect pitch for like 5 years ago, like, I'm sorry, I thought that was okay until I took this program. Apparently it's not.
It's not.
I think you would be surprised. Like Vanessa's talking about comp titles are so hard. I would beg to differ. I think sometimes when you're writing the story, it's hard for you as the person who's so involved in this story and the crafting of it to necessarily see what are these elements that are they're ringing true for the reader. And it can be really helpful for your beta readers to tell you what this reminds you of.
Ding,
and then you pick and choose which titles you then reference.
Right.
I was about to say that.
Because we're so close emotionally. Hence, as a librarian, I'm like, watch me. I'm going to go wherever I want to get these titles.
That's the other tip. Let me give that. Go to your library. Ask your librarian. Say, here is my pitch. Here is my book. Could you? I know that won't work internationally. To the people in the United States and Canada who have libraries, so let me say that. But to the people in the United States who have it, use it. And if you don't, do it. Get on. If there's any way to find a way to buy a PO box in the United States, at least in St. Louis, Missouri, I can show you how to online.
I would honestly argue that if you do not mind the devil that is Facebook, Facebook has a lot of librarians in Facebook groups. And some of those groups are not librarian specific. Like, you don't have to be a librarian in order to join. They're meant like librarians who are happy to help people. And so essentially it's like a desk, but it's a Facebook group as a service desk.
Yeah.
There are Goodreads groups, and I hate Goodreads as a UI. Hate it, but there are good groups on there with like groups that are aimed at readers. That are aimed at readers of certain genres, and then there's the Goodreads librarians group. But also, to answer Nia's question, for PitMad, yes, you can do a comp that's not a book, like a movie or a game, or example, because that will get agents' attention, kind of like Barrett was saying, like it's an in, but then agent, if they're interested in one of those things. But you should try and have book ones too, like to show that you know that it's still working in the publishing industry. Because if you only have movies or video games, they'll be like, okay, but like, does that mean that you don't know whether or not it's going to work in book form? So you want,
Is it true then that agents are kind of doing that to see if we really read in our genre? Like, is that kind of?
Yeah.
Okay. So
I'm struggling with comps. I'm struggling with Zara. You know, my comp is a historical fiction from 2014. Like, yeah, it's a struggle.
I don't remember what it is off the top of my head, though, so you'd have to tell me again.
All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr.
Okay, you know what? I want to look up. So there's this awesome thing. For those of you who don't know, it's free, I'm pretty sure, because I didn't sign up for it through school. It's a thing called Edelweiss, and it's used by booksellers and agents and everyone in the publishing industry. And basically, some people who put their books up there that they're representing are mean and don't put comp titles, but a lot of people do. And if you know that your book is similar to something, look at the comp titles. And
my book is like a historical fiction, but in space. So
there's an Edelweiss version that's available to the public, and then there's an Edelweiss version that's available to, for instance, librarians. That's different from the publishers. There's a lot of crossover, but they are more specific to each of your industry when you use it. So just so people know, some people may be seeing slightly different versions of Edelweiss, and that it's still the basic book information is the same, but like sometimes there'll be extra little resources. Like for librarians, there's free download options.
Yeah.
So I could download, EPUBs of it to review for if our library would pick it up. So as I said, like that is my background, is between sales and librarianship and video sales and video rentals. So I have been pitching for 20 plus years, and I thought, hey, this would be a great thing. Now, I have realized, I talked to Tom during the bio break, and I was like, I did not realize we probably could have just done pitches and queries for the entire month.
Oh my gosh, totally.
Yeah, you could have. I wasn't going to say that when you first pitched.
Yeah.
So we will definitely be having a second season of the show. We originally were thinking this would be a one-off, but obviously not, which is great. This is a good thing. But please feel free to give me all your feedback anytime, including in private and DMs, as you pitch what shows and how many shows of any subject. Please feel free. Obviously, my vision was not quite extended far enough.
Well, and Zara checked me on this, but Nia's comment, I think it's true. You can use a movie as old as you want, but the book probably should be in that 2 to 3 year time.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of the same. Like the movies, the thing is that the movies are much more widely known in pop culture than books, unless a book then becomes a movie, and then everyone's like, "Oh my god, the movie!" And you're like, "But the book first."
Yeah.
But like, yeah. Also, Doll, I looked up All the Light We Cannot See, and there are 9 comp titles, but the most recent one is from 2012. So,
oh dear,
yeah,
oh dear.
The other thing, Doll,
I'm doomed.
Someone gave me advice on a book that I wrote before when I was having trouble with comps, and their advice was, just look for something where the theme is the same.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be the voice. It doesn't have to be the pacing or the story.
And it certainly doesn't have to be identical.
No, it needs to give me the idea when I open it and read it, think, this kind of reminds me of, think of it as the suggested tab on YouTube, where on the side, they're throwing some ideas. Just think of it that way, and that'll take
or Goodreads readers also read, or Amazon's readers also bought. It's
totally. Yeah. Because I know how hard it is. Comps are hell.
Comps do apply to graphic novels.
Yes, definitely.
It is difficult because like I said, I'm blind. I miss on a lot of things.
Agreed, and that's understandable.
So friends like us, you can message us, and we can be like, "Well, we'll do research."
And that's the beauty of beta readers is you get to see what their expanded interests may also notice you have in common.
Yeah, because like there was the one book that we were reading of yours or story, and Tom was like, I think anything with child soldiers in it would definitely be a comp title. So really we need to find any kind of fiction or even nonfiction necessarily with child soldiers as a important plot element. This would be valid.
Yeah. It's I have to be more flexible with the reason why I decided for All the Light We Cannot See is because first, it's a dual POV story. You see the story from both sides of the conflict, and it is very similar. Like, there is this boy who is like in a situation where he cannot really escape from, and he's forced to do evil things even though he doesn't really want to. Very similar to my boy over here. And then you see the blind girl in a harsh environment trying to survive with whatever she has at hand. Yep, that's like my blind girl over here. It was very similar, even though it was a historical fiction about World War II, and my thing has nothing to do with that. But the circumstances of the characters were very similar. And I was like, that's my comp. Thing is, it's from 2014, so I'm already screwed. So
yeah, like what I did, which was like, this was actually an ongoing series I did for a regional magazine for months of these book reviews. So like, there's a lot of these. What I recommend is for any story, especially if you're trying to, for whatever reason, find comparable titles, for whatever your personal reason you're trying to, talk to voracious readers. And that was what I used, because there were some of the books I was reading that I'm like, I don't know what this is like. So there's one I did a cookbook episode for the Thanksgiving episode of this magazine, where one of the ones was going to be for Coolio has a cookbook. I don't know if y'all know this. It does contain lobster thermidor, for instance, the recipe for it. It's actually a really good cookbook. But I'm like, I don't know how to describe comparable titles. And I literally called up patrons I knew who were voracious cookbook readers and was like, I need your help. Come in, because I have the book. I had borrowed it from another library outside of our state. And I'm like, come look and help me figure it out. And I had 3 different patrons come in, and they all essentially consulted so I could figure out comparable titles. Because even as a librarian, even someone who's been reading cookbooks her whole life, I was kind of stumped. I'm like, because like all I could think of was another book that I was doing a review for, which was what was that? Bitch in the Kitchen or something? Oh, well, 50 Shades of Chicken. Yeah, that pretty much, it was all the books I was reviewing.
That was brought up in my publishing class, in one of my publishing classes, and all of us were like, we feel so bad for the chicken on the cover.
Have you read the short stories in it?
No, because none of us actually bought it, but we were like,
scandalous. Oh, our library had it. And it was like, I would read the little short stories before every recipe to my colleagues in the library before we would open sometimes, so we could have a laugh. A certain point in the book, though, I was like, I can't read anything more to you, because they were like, oh, Gloria, read us another. I can't read anything more to you because I feel like this would be sexual harassment. It was so scandalous. And also, yes, that chicken.
I'm so glad I didn't buy it as a gag gift for one of the people in my family who cooks a lot, because I thought it was hilarious enough on that, but I didn't realize it actually had. Oh,
we actually did a bunch of the recipes, and I have to say, all the recipes we tried were great.
Yeah,
it really improved our roasted chicken recipe. We started adding coriander. It was delicious. Everybody was like, "What is this amazing thing?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's my secret ingredient. It's coriander, y'all." It was wonderful. Chicken loves coriander.
But I will say, Doll, that like, while it's really cool that you have a comp title that's so similar to yours, like there are multiple series that involve like alien invasion and
no alien invasion. Zara, no alien invasion.
No, I'm saying for my book, like,
okay,
there's the Lux series, and then what was the companion one by Jennifer Lynn Armentrout, and then oh my god, Alienated, that series, and they have like a similar premise, but my book is completely different from both of those. But I could use those as comp titles so that people could be like, oh, I kind of know what I'm getting into. You don't need it to match as closely.
Agreed.
And in some cases, you don't want it to match too closely, because then people will compare it so much that it's like you can't be your own thing. You want it enough of a comparison that people are like, oh, I like this, so I might like this, but not so much that they're like, oh,
I'm gonna
copying blank.
Well, and let me just one more thing about just a tip on comps that a friend of mine learned the hard way. When you're going to agents, check and see if the comp is theirs. Because if you happen to comp a book of one of their clients and it is not a match, you just shot your shot and missed it by a mile, because they're going to go, how did they see this as a comp? So when you do your comps, and that's why I think Glory's advice is still the most solid, go to your betas, because other people are going to see the books and the stories that they're like, oh, you know what this reminds me of? Or this tone that you have in this story really reminds me of this. And it may not have anything to do with the similar premise or
agreed
or whatever.
The book Life of the Party has nothing to do with the book LA Confidential.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking while you were saying it. I was like, these two, how did that happen?
But the tone, the narration tone is so similar.
Yeah.
And
I'm gonna go. Okay.
If you enjoy this through line, you might enjoy it. Like, that's why.
Okay.
It's I have a not the letter.
I have a I mean, I read sci-fi, and
also
I know my kind of sci-fi when I see it.
If you want to find out which agent represents the comps you want, you can always try and look at the acknowledgments if the Amazon Look Inside works, or if you're in a physical bookstore, you can pick up the book and you know actually turn to that page. But if people can afford it, and I know not everyone can because it is expensive, but it is worth it. Publishers Marketplace. You can click on any agent and see every single deal they have ever done. You can also then click on the books that they've done and see how well they've done. And I mean, I had to use it as my for my program for a lot of different projects, but it is helpful. And every
and Doll, you're talking to people who have Publishers Marketplace right now. So you could DM either one of us and say, hey, would you check out X, Y, and Z? And I don't know about you, Zara. I'll make time to do that.
Oh, I'll make time too. I make time for my classmates who
100%.
My mom is amazing, and she's like, if you need it for school, and like there's a question of whether or not the school can get you. The school gets us access to a lot of things, including BookScan, which I wish everyone could afford, but it's like $1,000, and the fact that I have access to it right now is a godsend and necessary for my program. But you know, there was a question of getting access to it on time for certain assignments because my former boss, who's the literary agent, was like, I got in trouble a few years back for giving everyone my Publishers Marketplace account. So like, I'm trying to work with the school, but it might not be on time. So my mom was like, just do the thing. And like, you can cancel it if you need to, or just keep using it to find jobs, which is what I'm doing now. But yeah, so you can DM me or Barrett and we will look up stuff for you.
I have one possible comp title that is like from this year.
Which is great.
Clara, okay, it's Clara and the Sun by Kazuo Ishiguro. That's like the kind of sci-fi that I write. It's not the pew 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 sci-fi. It's very like, what is it to be human? Is that kind of sci-fi? And I'm like, oh, okay, that's my comp now. I got it.
I'm not familiar with the book. Is it TradPub? Is it traditionally published?
Yes.
Do you have, by chance, have you tried to query that agent just out of curiosity?
Nope. I got chickened out, and I am perfecting the first chapter to the point of insanity until before I query.
Yes, good. You're doing all the things. That's all the things.
There are 12 comps for Clara and the Sun, so you can also look at those.
Boom.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for helping me with that. And it is a very specific book. I mean, my main character is not a robot. I mean, he would be, oh my God, I would have I would be having a rough time right now if my character lived for real, because he's not a robot, and comparing him to a robot is the worst thing I can do to him. But okay, here we are.
Well, again, we're not trying to do identical.
Yeah.
We are trying to do the spirit of, if you liked this, you might enjoy this, and here's why.
Yeah.
So if you think about, like, as I said, not to make everyone's pitches sound like a Mad Lib situation, but I think it can be a good place to start from.
Definitely.
And then you keep editing and revising till it sounds more like a grocery store conversation. So that people have a foothold, like the read-alikes. That's what we call it in library land, or read-alikes.
Nice.
And there is a website called readalike.com, I believe. And if some libraries even pay for the extra subscription, so you can get the all access backstage pass
with your library card.
Yes. But you're looking for the spirit of, if you like the tone, or you like a certain kind of adventure, or whatever. It's not even supposed to be anywhere near it. It's supposed to be more like a spirit of similarity.
Yeah, yeah. It's a more kind of like quiet sci-fi. Quiet in the sense that it has a literary edge to it. It's not about space, not necessarily, and it's about like the daily life of these people in this world. Yeah.
But you just said literary sci-fi, and if you Googled that or list of literary sci-fi books, you might get things, and then you can Google those books to see what other books are similar. And I had another thought, and it just left my mind. So. Sorry.
It's fine. I think that's the direction I should be going, because if it's really more a literary-ish, not literary sci-fi.
I remembered my point. If you have a comp, you should write down the elements that make it a comp, and then find other books that have those elements too. Like basically, once you think you have one, go down the rabbit hole of finding similar things. But remember, they have to be similar to yours more than similar to the other comps. Like so there are people who will like cross genres and be like, oh, it's like this meets this. And some people are like, oh, don't do that. But most agents, especially now, they're like, they want to know like tone and theme. And if those are different, but and you're saying that you combine them in a different way, that is a great hook. You obviously have to deliver on that hook, but yeah.
Yes.
I'm doing that. Thank you. I'm taking notes.
Nia, if you're doing a retelling, do you use the OG comp as a book? If you're retelling like a famous thing like Phantom of the Opera, any Grimm's fairy tale, Alice in Wonderland, you mentioned that because a lot of those can be favorites of a person, and they're like, oh, I want a retelling of that.
100%.
Like that is the best hook you can give.
Totally. Yeah. And they're popular right now, or at least they
were. Like, what was that one about Cinderella that is a retelling but turns out to...
Yeah, I was
you have to be specific. There are so many.
You've not narrowed it down the way you think you have.
Yeah.
But I have to go do a quick search on Dom Noble's.
You said retelling of Cinderella, and I'm like, well, that was the origin for Throne of Glass before it got changed a lot. And then you have the Cinder, Cinder by Marissa Meyer, and you have Cinderella is Dead, and those are the three off the top of my head, and I'm sure I'm missing a ton.
Yeah.
I'm saying it might be Cinder. Yeah, it turns out it's actually more of a modern story than the first half of the book implies.
I want to say that's what you said about Cinder, because it was one that I didn't have time to read, so I'm like, here, Tom, you read it. And because all of my patrons kept talking about this damn book, and I'm like, literally, I am too overloaded. So I was like, here, Tom, you read it. Let me know if it does have clockwork stuff. I want to know. And he's like, this is, I know they call it Cinder, and the back blurb kind of pushes it, but this is really more modern. I'm like, okay, so people who are okay with the Cinderella story, but not in love. All right, this is how I'll.
But that's also why most people want a retelling in the first place. Like fairy tales in Greek mythology, they go in and out, and normally sometimes they overlap. Like right now seems to be a trend where they're both doing kind of well, but I think fairy tales are kind of on their way out, while mythology is kind of on the way up with Lore Olympus and it being turned into an actual book, but also a TV show. And then you have Hades, the video game, and Blood of Olympus on Netflix. Anyway, not the point. Those are very problematic original stories, but people love them because they have archetypes and they're constantly retold. And also Disney has just infected all of our brains. So if there are people like me who grew up with the Disney thing or know of the Disney thing, even if they were adults when they came out, because a lot of them have kids at this point, and they watch it and then they're like, oh, I'm curious what the original was, because everyone knows that Disney whitewashes a lot of stuff. They read the original and they're like, oh, that's effed up. And then they see that, oh, people are doing retellings, and what does that change? So like Cinderella is Dead, it has a black character, and that changes a lot of things because it involves race that doesn't exist. Or you have Cinder, which puts it in a different world. And then there are ones where, it's basically the same story, but what if it's in modern times and there's no fairy godmother because magic doesn't exist? Then Once Upon a Time, they did it twice, once better than the other. People love retellings because everyone is going to have a different spin on it, and they're going to change whatever they want, which means no retelling is going to be the same.
And it's familiar. There's an aspect to it that's familiar. And you say, I know that story. I love that story. Right? Mm-hmm. And that's the magic of them. That's what makes them work. I don't know. Can I give 2 stupid Pitmad points that I had written in my?
Go on, let's do it. And then I think Zara will have to leave pretty soon, so I figured we would do a bio break at that point, and that way she could just sort of skedaddle.
Yeah,
well, that was my thinking.
Back me up if you have any ideas. I just wanted to throw this out there for anybody doing Pitmad, because I saw the graphic novel and it made me think of one of my notes. So just some of the rules that I've noticed people get in trouble on for Pitmad, just go to the webpage and read the rules. They're very, very simple. The biggie of the biggies is to not do photos or graphics, because they'll lower your tweet from the algorithm unless you are doing a graphic novel and doing your own art. And then from my understanding, that's the only time, or picture book, I guess is the other, where you're doing your own art, that it's kind of appropriate to do graphics. Otherwise, if you don't have the hashtag PB or hashtag graphic GN for graphic novel, then they may like lower you down. The Pitmad folks monitors can lower you down. So just know that your picture won't make you stand out if you're just a regular novel folk. The other thing is, about a couple days before, get on Twitter and in the search function, do a search for Pitmad and check out your section from the previous round and see who was the best, and then also see the ones that got not a lot, and look at both and try to figure out what worked for them and what didn't, right? And use that as your guide. Pick 1 or 2 in your category, and I mean niche down. Like, I'm urban fantasy, so I'm not just fantasy, I'm urban fantasy for Wyatt. There's a whole lot of stuff there. Check out your specific lane and then stay in it. Reach out to those people and say, hey, are you doing Pitmad again? Most time they will. And you can say, if I add you to my list, get to know your list function, will you retweet me if I retweet you? And start making author connections, because the point of Pitmad is to get an agent but at the end of the day, build your network. Meet other writers, build your Twitter platform.
I have found so many author people on Twitter where I saw their thing and I'm like, ooh, I like you. I want to read your books. I'm going to follow you so that when you finally come out with books, either through traditional or self-publishing, I can read them.
10 out of 10. Or go to them and say, I loved your pit. My favorite CP, one of my CP partners.
Oh, Freudian slip right there.
One of my CP partners is one that I met through Pitmad. So, make those connections with people. And if you make it about the connections, then even if you don't get the heart, or if your heart comes from like your aunt who doesn't know the rules, it's okay. Like
that has happened to me.
Me too. And you're going to have that moment at the end where you can go back to your people and say, what I got out of this was you all. And like the confidence to even put yourself out there, because even doing it in the first place takes all the guts in the world. So keep going, don't give up, and don't let something like not getting a heart or whatever get you out of the game, because
agreed.
It's
people
a rejection.
are going to see your thing and will be interested.
100%.
I'm shy. I have to work that out. I'm very shy. It's like it's difficult. I'm working on it more on Instagram, but I'm gonna try again on Twitter and get my butt there.
Good.
I didn't know that. Thank you, Barrett. I didn't know about like going into the list and networking. That I didn't know. I had no idea.
Yeah, it'll just help you. It'll just help every retweet you get that day. And one more tip before I forget. If you're an author, retweet and then quote tweet. You can do both, and it boosts it twice. So you really have 2 votes on Twitter, and that just changed in the algorithm last year. So for those of you out there, if you're going to retweet it, and it's someone you know and love, go ahead and quote tweet them and say something. It doesn't matter what it is, because for the algorithm, it bumps it up. So this is the SEO stuff that like rattles around my brain that I go, this is useful. Like it can help people. They know it.
The thing about, stay in your lane. I know there are some people who are like, oh, but my book is cross genre. For marketing purposes like this, where, things are very siloed and on purpose to make things easier for people.
Yeah.
Don't go in and try and put your book in 2 things. It's going to be confusing. It's going to
stay with one.
And then also multiple agents from different genres might be like, they're doing both. Do they not know what they're doing? Right. Whereas, when you have more space and you can describe your book really as 2 different genres and how it melds together, that's cool. But Pitmad is not the place to do that.
You have just one tweet, so just pick one, stay there, and like I said, literary sci-fi, own voices with a touch of paranormal. What the fuck are you doing?
You and how can I make this the hardest on myself possible? I know
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. No, yeah, but
Agreed.
it really is. I'm not lying. It has paranormal. It has a touch of literary because I care about prose. It has own voices because hello, I'm blind and there's a blind character there, and it's a sci-fi. So yeah, I really fucked up when I was designing the story, but I have to do something about it. And what I do is I stay
I
with
don't
sci-fi.
think it's the story. I think it's the marketing right now, just in a tweet. And
no, I don't do that.
I just
No.
saw something that said that We Need Diverse Books isn't using own voices anymore, which is interesting. They're saying we want that in the description. Don't use the hashtag anymore. Traditional publishing is like many years behind. We need more diverse books, so they probably are still looking at that hashtag. But from what you're saying, I would actually lead with the literary sci-fi because that's a very specific niche and very interesting. And people who are interested in that will like go to bat for you.
That's what I'm doing. That's what I started. I always said sci-fi. I don't. It's Twitter. It's a small space. I say sci-fi. That's it. But I used to do the own voices. I stopped, and I know it shouldn't be used anymore. So I just stuck with sci-fi for a while. But if literary sci-fi is okay, then I'm going literary sci-fi.
Literary sci-fi is okay because kind of like urban fantasy, like it's a subset from a very commercial genre, and some people will be like, oh, I'm not like into aliens and all that stuff, so they like think that they aren't into sci-fi, and then someone will recommend a book to them based on plot. They read it and find out that it's literary sci-fi, and they're like, oh, okay, maybe I like more books. So I would stick to that. Also, while I have the mic, I'm just going to quickly say thank you for having me, and I'm going to duck out so I can go eat before.
Would you like to do an outro?
Zara has a class.
Sure. My name is Zara Hoffman. I'm an author tuber, as you can see at the link. I'm also a Twitch streamer. I host a lot of writing sprints, and I'm the self-published author of 5, soon to be 6 books. And yeah, I love the AuthorTube community, and I'm going to be back on this channel next week, same time.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Stephanie, I think, also has a prior commitment. Would you like to do an outro as well?
Sure. Yes.
Okay. Just need to scroll up to find you, and there we go. Hello. Yes, I do have a banner for Stephanie.
So I have a YouTube channel. I haven't been active on it very much. I hope to get back into that. You can find me everywhere. All my links are down below, and I will do my best to be back here next week.
Yay! Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for being here. We're not ending. We're going on a bio break, but Zara and Stephanie have prior commitments they need to go to. So the rest of us are going to hydrate or maybe do butt stuff. I don't know.
Or whiskey.
Don't wonder. I'll just let you wonder.
And then
I'm going to get some whiskey. That's what I'm going to do.
Okay. And we will be back here in 10 minutes. So catch you back here, y'all. And I've got... Beep 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 beep. Tom's walking down the hall because we were talking about what to talk about next.
No worries. I love the little moment that happened though right before we went on break with Doll. I want to just say to folks, I get a lot of times that there's a lot of privilege I have that I don't recognize, and so anytime that someone, I'm not going to hand out my weapon, as Dara was saying, that's not smart. They'll get in trouble for that. But I'm happy to look stuff up. So if you're in a position where you're like, hey, I'm querying, I'm looking for X number of agents, and that's not just dogs. That's within reason. If 100,000 people watch this,
no, I would never bug you down. I'm too shy to do that.
I think Barrett was more like, look, 50 people might there might be a backlog, y'all.
Right. I'm more like if you shut my email down, then hey, but Doll, seriously, like reach out to me as I mean it when I say if your hang up is access to things I have access to, then tell me what they are, because it will take me a morning on the toilet, which could be what I'm doing anyway.
I get it.
Very relatable.
Very relatable. Absolutely. I mean, I'm partially blind. I'm in Argentina. I speak English as a second language. Sure. I have call me the ultimate underdog.
Yes. So please do not be shy, and at least with me, and I genuinely mean this. Do feel free to reach out anytime. DM me. My DMs on Instagram and Twitter are open, but my email is listed on my About section of my YouTube. It's just my name, .barrettlaurie.com. Wait. Oh God, I gotta look it up. I don't know. Ricky does all that for me. But the point is, there's an email somewhere, and I can put it where you can use it. And please reach out to me, because for stuff like Publishers Marketplace, or even access to libraries, which I understand is something we take for granted in the United States, big time. But that doesn't.
Was CB who was saying like her library has been closed for 15 years and there's no plans to reopen it in her area.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And she has mobility problems, so it's not like you could just hop in a car and drive to the next city over. There's just not options.
And that's where we need to as a community, come together, just like we did on that conversation. Yep. So if you have some privilege of and this is for everybody out there that has it, like me, that kind of goes, oh yeah, that's what that is. If you have it and you recognize it, offer it to somebody else, and then offer that access, because that levels the playing field. It also gives you a community that you can lean on for everything with one another, because ultimately we all have the same goal. Write a good book and have someone read it.
Yes.
That's it. So if we can help each other get there, then all the better. So yay for that. Yay to ourselves for how well we did.
Yes.
I'm very, very pleased to.
I can feel Tom being comfortable with us, me being like, let's just pat ourselves on the back.
Yes. Yep.
I agree.
Part of my goal with inviting as diverse a group or cross section of people as I can find that I obviously like, love, and get along with. So there is a certain amount of vetting going on. But my goal is for everyone to also get to network, get to know each other, and, to see like, hey, there's something that I find not that hard. I would love to be able to help you with it. Like, so for instance, my writing, which I am segueing into, I was talking to Tom during the break and I was like, how about I read another review I did, like for the magazine. It was the Thanksgiving article. So the article was called A Therapeutic Guide for Thanksgiving. The holidays approach. After your mother emotionally blackmails you into attending this year's Misery Fest, you'll find yourself asking the deep philosophical questions Aristotle and Diogenes wrestled with. Questions like, how am I related to Cousin Derek? Didn't he and his kids fall out of a tree only last week? And exactly how many squirrels does it take to fill Aunt Mabel's legendary squirrel casserole? I know, I've been there. The answers are, through your father's side, yes, because their tails fell off 2 weeks ago, and 42 squirrels. Discussing controversial cookbooks is a delightful relief compared to listening to Cousin Derek orate about the state flag, homosexuals, or the lack of appropriate police brutality in 21st century America. For this technique to work, the recipes must be easy, the writing must be witty, and the book must be bursting with gorgeous, sexy, messy food pictures. Thug Kitchen by Thug Kitchen. I have a hypothesis. Whoopi Goldberg and Martha Stewart passionately scissored until they made a book baby and named it Thug Kitchen. Tasty vegan cooking at its most foul-mouthed. Bursting forth with food portraits to make your mouth water and then take you out cruising for juicy tomatoes. Descriptions read like you're getting advice in the back of your favorite gritty truck stop diner. Excerpt. For peachy almond tapioca. Tapioca might sound like an old lady dessert, but trust them, they aren't wasting their golden years on some Bush League bullshit. This pudding is creamy and perfectly sweet. Now go call Gladys and tell her that shit Ethel said earlier. What to drink while reading at Thug Kitchen? My advice is whiskey or tequila. You don't mess around, and you are here to eat Awesome Town. All of it. There.
That's great.
There's a lot of different ways to look at books and stories, and we want to help. Again, like, so that is a pitch for readers. It's not a pitch for agents.
Right.
But it's also was my pitch for helping people keep their sanity after the 2016 election. That was literally that article got written so fast because I essentially changed the article to be this of like, oh, we're all going to hear it. Yeah. So anyhow, I thought that I would just start with that. And then from there we would talk, in our third hour, about pitches and queries. We could go on to query. Barrett, I think you have like the only or most of the experience in the 21st century on querying of this panel, since I haven't done it since the 90s.
Oh, well, and Zara left, so.
Well, I mean, like currently here, not like.
Yes, it's still on screen. Yes, maybe I'm querying right now, but I'm about to end it. I mean, like, I batch film everything, so I'm going to spoiler alert my own series here on your deal. I have my season in Saturday. So the sound will probably not be great on it either, Glory. Sorry. I used the same mic and I didn't know until after.
I was just trying to give you feedback. Like, I'm like, I can turn it up to 70. I just thought you'd want to know.
I got like new toys, and so I'm like learning how to use them. But anyway, so I did not sign with an agent. I did not get an agent, but I did have an agent call on Sunday. And
nice.
Thanks. I got an R&R. So I'm going to do an extra video kind of talking about that. But I'm basically going to.
So what is an R&R? Hi, Carrie.
Oh, I'm sorry. So an R&R is a revise and resubmit. Mm-hmm. So we're going to send you an editorial letter and give you an amount of time for, in this case, it'll be 90 days from the day I receive the email to make the changes and resubmit. And then they'll reconsider, essentially. So we actually had a really good conversation. And what's interesting is the feedback she gave me is an overlap of the feedback I got from everyone else. And I had to send out 6 queries. I ultimately had 3 full requests and 1 partial. Mm-hmm. So I had really good results on it.
Yeah.
But I got rejected by everybody except this last call. And the rejection was all the same, which is you're in YA, you've written a series. And, when I sent them the full manuscript, I should say, I have outlined the story, the entirety of 5 stories. So they had full outlines of where it was going. And essentially the feedback was YA is really, really hard on a series. If you want to debut, you're better off to write a standalone of anything else. And then once you have a readership, go back to your series, just so that you have a better chance of selling your first book, because if your first book doesn't sell well, they will own the rights to the future books for a certain number of years, and they're dead until that runs out. So knowing that feedback, I'm kind of, it was why I'm going to pull the plug on it for this book and put it away, because and I'm giving away my entire content of this upcoming video. But essentially I'm just evaluating that, like, the feedback I got was really go do something else. Is go do something, write something else, which I'm already doing and I'm halfway through, and come back and we'll see. And the good news is I got 2 agents that in their rejections that were personalized sent me a way to go around Query Manager to query them with a standalone. So that was also cool. I came out of it like feeling really good about it. It was a good experience. I'm glad I had it. And again, just having gone through all of it, I'm happy to lament with anyone who wants to talk about checking their inbox every 5 seconds for months.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a great experiment. I'm glad I did it. I'm excited to do it again in the fall. If that's my goal. I really want to try by PitMed in September. Be ready to pitch this new book if I can swing it. So we'll see. My body will walk.
We caught a wild Laura.
Hello.
Hi, Laura.
Hello.
Hi, doll. Yes.
So, Barrett, do you have any advice for querying in the 21st century?
Oh my gosh, all of it. How much time do we have?
Not to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
Which, of course, I always do to poor Barrett. And Barrett loves to be prepared ahead of time. And I'm like, throw that out. Whatever. What's your...
Oh, yeah, I do. I have an entire notebook here that's ridiculously detailed and full.
I did try to get in contact with you yesterday because I started feeling guilty about, like, and that's why I sent you that what you doing was like, hey, we could, like, talk about it.
No, I know. It's a thing. Advice. Holy cow. So the number one advice, honestly, that I would give anyone is, first of all, prepare yourself for rejection. If you go into this thinking that you're somehow different than everybody else, which, by the way, psychologically, like, I didn't take too many psychology classes for my degrees, but I took enough to know that, like, we all have that thing in our head that says, like, ours is the best, and it's not. And that's okay. And it really is okay. And so as long as you're okay with rejection and you've got a healthy relationship with that, it's going to be a great process. Stay small in your batches. Less than 10 is ideal. I would even say 6 or so, because then you won't burn all of your agents on a bad query letter, for example. If you get feedback that maybe your query's off or if something's off, you can change it. If you've sent it to 6 people, you can't change it if you send it to 56, right? I would say queries until you're ready. Don't listen to other people. My CPs have all told me, query this book until you get to 20 or 30 agents. And I'm like, sorry about you. I got better things to do at the time. I mean, I'll work on the R&R because I think that's a good use of my time. But, like, to continue to query something and not change it isn't a good thing. And if I'm going to focus on changing it, I really shouldn't be querying it as is. That's another
exactly. Like, I never query the same draft twice. I get a rejection, see how can you fix it. Another rejection, let's see, what can I do?
So, yeah. And that's what I'm going to do it. I actually wouldn't adjust the draft until the end of the batch. So, like, I would have waited for all 6 to come back before I adjust the draft, just because I'd want to look to see if any of the feedback overlapped. So if any of the agents, which in my case they did on one thing, where they all kind of said the same thing, which is also an interesting indicator of, like, oh, so I
never, the thing with me is I never have 6 agents to query. I have like 1. Gotcha. Like, oh, I think I found the one. I'm querying that person, and it's like, I'm gonna query, and it's like that person. So that is also wrong. This is advice that I would give people not to do. Don't be like Dal. Don't query just one at a time, because like you're basically putting all your expectations into that agent. Right. And when they reject you, I have a physical reaction. I shut down. Not because I feel bad. I don't anymore. I understand. It's like, okay, I have to make this better. But my body's like, okay, I'm going to sleep now. Bye. And I see you in 3 days. It's like, wow, what the heck just happened? So yeah, don't be like me. Especially if you suffer from depression or mental health of any kind. Don't do that. It's bad for you. I wish I had more agents to query, and as soon as I do, I will. Yeah, but I agree with you with the small batches. I have always been a small batch kind of person.
Yeah, I just think you can track it. So I love data, and it's my business degrees, and I loved all the math of it because I'm that person. I was better with numbers than people. But so if you do it small enough, then you can track trends, and it's a little easier to figure out what we can adjust and do better. Is that me?
You're here?
Yeah, is it me? Hang on.
I think so.
Okay.
Oh.
It's Doll.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sometimes my Wi-Fi is so wonky.
Okay.
So anyway, I would say cast a wide net as wide as you can, but do it in batches and then track the trends and just try to stay on top of any changes that you can. I would also say if you get overlapping feedback on your query and it's negative and you're not sure where to take it, and I know, again, this is a privilege thing, but I'm going to throw it out there because I did it myself, and so I'm going to share what I did. but there is the option to pay for a query review, which I did. It was about $35, I think. And I was glad I did, the experience was good. I don't know that I would send anybody to this particular person just because we didn't gel as people, like on timelines and things. But so I don't recommend people if they don't keep their deadlines, but that's a me thing. So anyway,
no, I would agree.
The
you got things
experience
to do.
was useful, and I would say there is something to be said for getting feedback from people outside your writing circle. Your critique partners and your betas know you in your writing. Give it to someone who doesn't, and ask them, would you read this? And if the answer is no, then ask them why and where, and where did I lose you, and go right there. And maybe that's just the way my bluntness handles things in life, but I find that's the easiest way to correct a problem in the query package itself. And I should say, this is the first time I've queried, but I've been in writing groups for a number of years and been helping people behind the scenes until I was ready. So this was just the first time I thought I was ready and jumped in and did it. So,
Laura,
I got an agent video. So
Laura, you've queried a bunch for anthologies, right?
Yeah.
Because we kind of talked about that, and I remembered at a certain point I was like, that was where I put my pitch to you about Mama said it's 50 frogs you have to kiss before you find a prince. Yeah. And it's not necessarily your prince that you find.
Yeah.
So could you tell us about your querying experiences? If you feel like it.
So how I go about it is I find anthologies that are open for submission, and they usually have their theme, or it's a first line. So it's like, here's the first line and go from there. And I look in the horror genre. So either on Submission Grinder or on blogs or on Horror Tree or Published to Death. There's a bunch of different places. But I find the anthology and then I write for the anthology. And then I will submit the piece to them. So I'm curating it to that anthology specifically so I have the best chance that I can to get in. But sometimes it doesn't work. And so you get rejection. Sometimes it's a personalized rejection. And then you'll have that in your repertoire to submit to other places as well. So it's really annoying. But all of these places have their own specific style of query letter. Like, don't tell us anything about your story except for the title and how many words. Okay. And then like have a certain type of header on your story, and like have all of your contact info like on the document itself and not just a query letter, like depending on the place. It's all over the place. But yeah, so making sure that you're following that, submitting it, and just don't get discouraged. And it's really annoying as well because most places do not submit simultaneously to another place. You are exclusively submitted to us until you get feedback. Mm-hmm. So
I have noticed that about anthologies. Yeah,
wow, you can be on submission for like 3 months, and so then get a rejection
before you submit.
Yeah, so you will be on hold with this one story with one publisher for months, and then get it, and then you'll submit to somewhere else. So it can take forever.
Oh wow!
But there are a couple places that will accept simultaneous submissions. So there's multiple submissions and simultaneous submissions. So multiple is where you submit more than one story to the same publisher for an anthology. So that's pretty rare. And simultaneous to multiple places at the same time is also kind of rare. But yeah, so sometimes you will get personalized feedback. Not very often because a lot of these places get so many. But yeah, so I've just been keeping all of my stories, and now I'm putting them into collection in my own. So ones that have been published, read your contract for how long it's exclusively with that anthology so that it's released back to you so you can put it in your own collection.
Yeah, be careful about any that retain in perpetuity.
Yes, yeah. Or and also if you can pay attention to international distribution rights. That we've actually found where national rights, like American/UK rights or English,
usually it's North American rights for.
That they're very. I found some anthologies because I was looking up for science fiction 2 years ago, and they were very reasonable for North American. This one I was thinking of actually was North American and UK and Ireland. Like it was like, well, okay, sure, we'll do that. And their rights were very reasonable. But then I looked all the way at the bottom of their fine print, and the international rights on the other hand, instead of just retaining it for 3 years, was for 10, and their choice to re-up without a option to not re-up with them.
The
and
longest.
I'm like, excuse me, wait, what? No.
The longest I've had so far is 6 months of exclusivity.
Yeah.
The one that I have for Twisted Pulp that comes out next month is just 1 month of exclusivity.
Plug it. What is it? Plug.
Plug it away.
So my first ever one was my Jack Frost story called Frozen Retribution that came out in January in the Shiver anthology. And then I have Cosmos and Beneath that each have 2 stories that came out in April and May. And this month I had Mutation come out, and next month I have Twisted Pulp come out, and then 2022 I have The Boy in the Wallpaper in Lovecraftiana. So
wow, that's prolific.
There's something else in there that I'm forgetting.
I'm a book a year gal myself, but
I don't know. It's like, so it's pretty much been 1 a month for about 4 months. So
that's awesome. Good for you.
It's pretty
That's
fun.
really awesome.
But I still get a lot of rejections.
Say if I'm hearing how many you're going in, I multiply that by at least 10 to find how many rejections probably were involved, because
it's not that bad. It's only been like 35 rejections, I think, including the poetry. So
that's really not bad.
That's good.
Not bad. But I mean, Laura is a fantastic writer. I'm glad to hear that people are taking notice,
Although I think like when we originally had a conversation about submissions, like I want to say several months ago now, I think you were at 18 rejections in a row.
Yeah.
And, it's like it can be a while before you start finding a good fit.
Mm-hmm. And also almost all of these anthologies that I'm in, I'm not getting paid. So it's paid in exposure. So
Laura,
I've been rejected from every high paying anthology. So
let me ask you something. Is it where like the editors are kind of the same, since you've kind of had so many published now? Like, are you working with any of the same people, or is anybody coming back to you kind of like, hey, let's, I've got this other anthology coming up. Would you want to write something for that? Like, how does it work? Is it like that?
One podcast is like that I submitted Rust to. I have an interview with them in half an hour for an episode, but it's called Between Lewis and Lovecraft, and so they do sci-fi and other bookish things. Ooh. And so we had a sci-fi flash fiction episode where mine was in there, and so they really liked it, and so they're like, you need to submit to our Halloween ones. It's like, okay, yay, awesome. Halloween.
Yeah.
Nice.
But yeah, no,
super cool.
On a lot of my rejections, it's like your prose is good, but the story just didn't capture me. So I think I need to work on my story concepts a bit more.
Yeah.
Or they were saying like, we liked it, it's just not a good fit, but please submit again. So
yeah, I relate to that one so much. This is what I get from my book. Sometimes I just get radio silence, like no answer at all. And I'm like, okay, I mean, that's very nice of you, whatever. Maybe it just got lost in the mail. Who knows? Whatever. But then when I do get a rejection, they say, I can tell you're an accomplished writer. I like it. It's not what I want right now. And also, like, one of the recurring feedback was, maybe you're leaving your readers a little bit behind, which means you're very complex. And I'm like, okay. Okay, maybe that was not the agent for me, and I specifically said I'm not writing YA. Yeah. So that, but I took that into consideration, and I'm trying to work on my clarity. Could be something that translation, could be something that has to do with my English, could be so many things, and I'm over here blaming myself for everything because, again, I'm the ultimate underdog. But they said, I can tell you're a good writer, it's just not what I want right now. And breaking all the rejection etiquette, I replied back like, hey, I just want to thank you for that, because at least I get feedback and now I have something to work on, and I just wanted to thank you. I know we shouldn't reply. I know. I'm sorry. I just want to thank you.
I think a thank you is fine. I mean, right? Like,
I think a thank you note, a brief but direct thank you note, I think is perfectly reasonable. Yeah. And if anything, it used to be kind of expected. I mean, when Mom and I were querying in the 90s, she actually bought these beautiful pearlescent embossed thank you notes. And I'm like, why'd you buy something so nice? Who's giving us gifts? She's like, no, they're for like when we actually get a real reply back from anyone. We're supposed to send a handwritten thank you note thanking them for their feedback. And that was my job because I had better handwriting. So that's what I remember about it is, no, that used to be in the 90s. That was considered nice. One agent actually sent back a handwritten letter saying, your thank you note was so beautiful and so beautifully written. We felt so touched. We can't wait for you to, contact us next year, like we mentioned, when we think we will have more markets for you.
Right.
It's about building personable relationships in a business-to-business situation.
Exactly. Well, that's why I say thank you. I say thank you because, hey, that person took the time to not just send me a copy-paste rejection email. They took the time to tell me something that will help me to work on perfecting that thing for my next query round. Hey, that means something to me. I just want to say thank you for that.
Totally, and you should. And everybody should do whatever feels right for you. All I'm going to stress to anyone is try to avoid going back to an agent with anything less than thank you. Or something positive and professional. Something that you think more LinkedIn and less Tinder, right? Like go at it with like a LinkedIn attitude, and you're headed on the right glide path. One other thing I would say, listening to Doll talk, that it just light bulb in my head. But and I had a lot of times in my 20s where I ran through men. So I did a lot of the "it's not you, it's me" conversation, and essentially that is what the agent is doing, and has to do every single day. And for anybody who ever did it, it's awful. And for anyone who ever got it, it's awful. So it never feels good. It's not something.
It never feels good. The funny thing is, after a while, I also started working with a small indie press, and we had a round of submissions, and I was the one in charge of evaluating those manuscripts.
Wow.
It doesn't feel right to say I don't think this book will fit.
Right.
It's kind of bad. I was like, I am this is the sci-fi book in the query bunch, and here I am, a sci-fi reader, and I'm not feeling it. I'm so, it just broke my heart. I was like, crap. I mean, if I had to write the rejection letter for this, I would be crying. So it is not pretty. It's not a good feeling. And being on both sides of the query somehow, it makes me understand things in a much deeper level. And this is why you will not find me thrashing agents, because I know what they go through, and maybe my story is just not good enough, or it is just not for a market, like Glory says. If the well
right now, right? It could be on trend in a year or a year and a half, or
I'll say like that was what I actually kind of wanted to talk about.
That's what that's literally what Tom talked about during the break.
Was Glory found?
Thank you, Barrett. You and y'all are really bringing it in. Thank you so much.
Glory
happy to help.
Yesterday or the day before, a whole bunch of stories we had sort of made rough sketches of, 15 years ago.
20.
And at the time, we were told, when we started pitching this to people, we were told that this is not a realistic story. You need to change genre to fit this. And we have been trying to fit into those genres.
For those who've been following, it's the Losertown story, which we are renaming Justin. We're naming
and the Trouble with Angels.
And the Trouble with Angels. But yeah, like Loser Story, which we are, again, I just want to make a note, everybody. His name is now Justin. We're calling him Justin so that we can stop calling this poor character Loser after 15 damn years.
Yeah. But we're looking at it, and it was like, for the longest time, we were trying to fit this into a younger 18, 19-year-old archetype.
But originally, that's not how we wrote it, because it didn't fit.
So, because we were rereading it, it's like, no, this still works. This is fine. The original pitch, 15 years ago, mind you, was a guy who was in his mid-20s, had finished college, hadn't been able to find a job in his career, was delivering pizzas and sleeping in his car so he could send most of his money back to his mother to help her pay for her medications that she would die without. And how essentially a group of the people in town who worked minimum wage jobs at all these restaurants.
All these essential workers, y'all. We literally made an entire treatment story with only what now we would call essential workers. The ice cream shop, the Long John Silver's, and the Captain D's. Let's just say 2 fish places, because we'll never get to publish it with those names.
And the pizza delivery places. There's 2 different ones.
There's 2 different ones. You remember
and how essentially they all hang out after work, and they have a group of friends.
Yeah.
And how they essentially pull this guy who's gotten into essentially his little depression shell, because he's living away from family. He lies to his mother. He only calls her for a few minutes every month to make sure his check got there to her. And he's telling her, "Oh, I'm doing great. This is just, the extra money I don't need for my job." He doesn't want to admit that, he's living in his car. At the time, 15 years ago, we were told this was an absolutely...
Everybody we pitched this to was like, this is so depressing. And it's
unreasonable, unbelievable,
unrealistic. This is terrible. He already has a bachelor's degree in engineering and he can't get a job. No. Everybody we pitched was like, I can't get into it because you're just trying to make it depressing. You're trying to ruin this poor character. And now, 15 years later, there are like a whole van culture now. This is normal. His mother cannot afford the medication to keep her alive. This is like normal.
This is normal now. Yeah.
It's normal in America.
And so it's a keep your stories.
It's normal. No, sorry. It's normal globally. Sorry. But
maybe this is not the year to pitch that story. Maybe, it's not there, but always keep it around because you don't know how things will change.
Mm-hmm. No, like seriously, I'm not giving up on this story. I will die before I give up on that story. I'll be a ghost. I'll be a ghost and I'll be still queer.
Yeah. So if the trends aren't there right now.
Yeah. But yeah, like so every time we would come up with a story premise and I'd write out like a basic treatment or the first chapter with a bunch of hooks in it and everything. And then we would start shopping it around. And we've been doing this off and on for 20 years for all these different stories. And every time we'd be told, oh, no, you need to. So the Trouble with Angels one. What we were told on that one, the main character is a woman. And we had her about like in her early 30s. She had a family, a husband, a mother, and a 9-year-old daughter. And we were told, what's hot now is YA. You need to make her a high schooler or just out of high school. So we tried to change this around. And let me tell you, it's about 15 years. It's like, because Trouble with Angels was the year before Justin's story. For about now 16 years, people kept telling us it needs to be YA, and we could not get it to work as YA because there were things that just were icky if she's that young. Mm-hmm. Also, people told us to make it a man or a boy.
Right. They tell me,
like we were told straight up, like I was told by agents I went to several meetings from the Society of Children's Book Authors and Illustrators, since they do YA.
Yeah.
And I went to fairs where there were like so many agents would show up, and everybody I brought it to And that's right. I forgot I did. My mother did help me with a query letter because I'm like, I'm not going to do it. She's like, you're going to do it because needs to go and da-da-da. And so she like pretty much forced my hand to write this query letter. So I took it to the fair and everything. Every one of them told me I can't sell it because it needs to be a straight white male. Oof.
Sounds like publishing in the 1990s.
This was the early 2000s. I was told I can't.
2000s. I mean,
right. And there's an angel in there because it's paranormal, and we had him as not white, y'all. Did you? And I was told I can't sell it if both of these two main characters are not white and straight and male. And because I felt even back then, why would angels have human genders? They're angels. They have angel genders. And they can change it interchangeably. I felt like that was just, maybe that's my autism showing up. But I was like, I feel like angels, if you can decide to fly or walk, that means you can also decide what you want your gender to be anytime. Because after all, Michael had Nephilim as his children or their children. So that would be changing gender as you want. Mm-hmm. They were like, we literally cannot sell this. We cannot sell this to anyone. I had agents contacting other agents of like, I know one agent who like works with weird stuff. Maybe we could pitch that.
That's always like a great lead in to a, hey, I know somebody weird enough who's going to like your thing.
According to him, that was how he called. He's like, when I go to my hotel room tonight, because this was New Orleans, that was how they used to get all the agents to show up, was they do it in New Orleans, the fair, so that everybody would have a business expense to go party in New Orleans, y'all. And I mean, it worked. And it was like, when I get to my hotel room tonight, I'm going to call him up. He's in Manhattan, so I got to beat him before he goes to sleep. And I'm going to pitch this to him and see if he'll take it, because he definitely owes me a favor, da-da-da-da-da. Even that person passed on it of like, oh, man, you can change genders at will. No, cannot sell this. Even if you make them all white, I cannot sell this.
Right. What I hear a lot about my story is make it YA and shorten that time span of the story. It's too long, 5 years. No, keep it to a year. And I'm like, not working for what I want to do with this story.
But my point is simply 16 years later, number one, I'm not looking for an agent or traditional publishing as like a requirement. And number two, the world has changed so much that I think, honestly, interchangeable genders would be a fun thing now, and people are very more comfortable with it. Yes. Barrett, jump in. What you got? I don't mean to interrupt.
No, I 100% agree with you on that point that it's changed a lot on the timing. Can I ask you something? So could you say that to me again, the feedback that they gave you about the time?
Shorten the time span. So my story... the timeline of the story for the first book is 5 years. So you see them grow within a book. And they say, nope, make it YA, make it short, shorten that time span. Don't do that. So, I'm like,
okay, let me tell you let's talk through a couple things. So one thing on the YA front, because that's definitely my world and what I read almost exclusively. But it is, I will tell you, it is the hardest place in God's green earth to sell a sci-fi. So any agent who is telling you to make a sci-fi story YA is, they don't know.
Not in your favor.
Not in your favor. I don't even know who they are, because I'm like, what in the world are you selling that makes you think you're going to be able to sell that book? Good luck on you. So all I would say on that is screw the YA thing. That's not helpful. But the thing on time, I would listen to if it's been said more than once, and just be open to this. I don't know that you need to change your story necessarily, but if the feedback is the same more than once, and it is anything in the realm of that could even imply pacing, or that there is a portion that slows down, that could be quicker, think about that, because you could still keep the 5 years and go back through maybe your middle, your act 2, and find places where it could shorten here and there, and the pacing could just, because the time, the piece of that doesn't make sense to me is there is lots of books that span longer periods of time.
The feedback comes because it was about make it YA, and YA stories are only like maximum a year of time.
Oh, okay. Well, then that.
Yeah. I'm like, dude, I'm writing adult. I can do whatever I want. But But no, it was because of the YA was the hot thing, and everybody was like, no, make it YA and shorten it up. And I'm like, no.
I mean, I would love to see it because I love sci-fi personally. I would love.
Yeah, but it's not YA. But it's not YA, so I don't know if it's going to be your cuppa.
No, I will read adult books. That's what I'm saying. I'm just saying in YA, unfortunately, there isn't a sci-fi audience. I think it's a shame, but there isn't. So I would say
no, there isn't. There really isn't. I'm sorry, there isn't. No,
there's not.
Yeah, I'm just trying. My doll's struggle, constant struggle, is where the is my audience? Where are they? Where do they live? Or where do they hang out? I want to find them. Yeah, so
ultimately that is a question that you are going to help your agent answer in the long run. And the next week's episode, which I am going to jump on and join for some of it, is a great time to talk about that, because
amazing.
What you're doing at that point is you are looking at yourself as a brand, and you're figuring out how best to position your brand so that it can reach the maximum number of readers that would say, hey, those books that Doll's spinning out, those are my kind of stories. That's what I'm here for. And the thing that you've got to learn how to do is how to channel your energy into some sort of content that you can put out. And do not think content as YouTube. For me, that works. It may not work for you. And just to plug my own thing real quick,
yes,
I'm doing a series of videos on just this very topic and how you can pick your platform. But what you're going to do is you're going to pick something that you can do. We are writers. We are creative people. There is some sort of content you can create, if you think about it long enough, somewhere where we can help you put it in front of the right readers that would connect with you on a visceral level. And it may not be thousands of people, but I guarantee we can find your tribe. So it's just a matter of figuring out what your brand is, how you want to present it, and what your best.
I'm totally a brand. Totally a brand. I am the ultimate underdog who refuses to be unbroken.
There you go. So
like,
there is
sorry, my grammar. Who refuses to be broken. So
perfect.
That's I am a brand. I am the blind girl who's like, crap, you tell me that I can't? Show me. I'll show you twice that I can, and I will do it better than you. So that's kind of my thing. But
that's the point. It's figuring out where we put that so that other people hear it and say, wow, you know what? That message resonates with me. And I want to hear more of what she has to say. And
awesome.
So, I'm sorry, I just said she, but I didn't see pronouns, so I just
I'm a she. Don't worry. I'm a she.
Apologies.
Don't worry. I'm a femme.
So I wasn't trying to get all up on you on that specifically. Sorry if that felt like a me solve your problem. But
no. It's fantastic advice. It is. I started up I went wild on Instagram. I optimized that platform to the point of.
Doll's been really working on Instagram branding and stuff.
I'm going to reach out to you because I want to learn Instagram next.
That's in part why she's joining us next week for Unlocking Demographic Branding.
Yeah.
To help, give us her pearls of wisdom and experience.
Instagram is the last frontier. I want to learn it, so I'm all about it.
I'm not an expert because I just figured out my thing. I don't know how to do it for everybody, but I can give you advice. Now the thing is, audience has always been my struggle. Now I'm wondering if the query is also wrong because agents are radio silence with me most of the time, and.
Would you be willing to show it to me? Would you send it to me so I can read it? Let's I'll in private chat give you my email. Or send it however is best. Glory.
I'm going to send you the thing right away on your Instagram messages because I have a link and I have everything in there. Perfect. But yeah, so my query is basically I start off with a personalized line like I'm querying to you because of blah blah blah, and I usually have a good reason to do that because I'm extremely selective. Good. Extremely selective. I'm querying you because I saw that you represented this book and I see that you're like above and beyond promoting your clients and blah blah blah, that kind of stuff. I'm very, very like that. Then I cut the bullshit and I'm like, yeah, my book is blah 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 blah. All the metadata, like my novel, blah blah, has 88,000 words and it's completed, blah blah. It's a standalone with serious potential, could be compared to all the light we cannot see in space. That's wrong. I have to update that. But that's what I had. And then I go straight to the blurb. I do the blurb. Then I tell a little bit about myself, but briefly. I'm not saying where I live. I'm not saying too much information that I don't want to share on the internet because stalker situation.
No, I get that.
Yeah, stalker situation over here. The survivor.
Do you in the queries give more of that personal information or something more personal in your bio, just about some of your, because here's the thing, you started this with telling me what your brand was. Yep. And I'm just making sure that in your query letter, your brand is clearly stated. Because if I'm an agent, I'm going to look at your letter, and if I like it, I'm going to read your pages. And if I like that, then I'm going to go to Google and Google your name. And whatever pops up in Google, YouTube, your website, your Instagram, whatever, I want to see a consistency in that messaging. So, I'm not saying lean on it like a crutch, but I lean on the gay thing if I need to. But lean in.
I used to do the blind thing. I used to do the partially blind thing a lot. Mm-hmm. It wasn't a query. Then I was considering hiding it. Then no. Then yes. Then no. I never know, because one thing is to be LGBTQ and another is to be disabled. Sorry, but there's a difference, and people are not so open about.
Oh, I agree. I 100% agree. In fact, I'd even say, because we just kind of talked about this on a live stream on my channel, but neurodiverse people have a harder time.
Oh yes.
I would say lots of folks who land in the disability category have a hard time getting agented. So I totally understand. Mm-hmm. I understand. What I would have you think about and just think on is whether you think that if that is your brand, if that's who you are, you've got to embrace it everywhere. And it's got to be the same message on every single platform. And when I go to doll on YouTube, needs to be doll on Instagram. They can be different voices because that's important to match the platform that you're on. But overall, they should be somewhat congruent. And the only reason I'm saying this, because again, it's not from YouTube. I don't have a channel as big as like Vixen's, for example. But I did work comms for political campaigns. And so my job was to take a message, create a social platform, get that message out there, and get the things passed. And not to toot my own horn, but I only lost 1 out of 44 message campaigns. So nice. I do know how to market and sell a message. So what I would say is keep the message simple and the same. And if blind is a part of it, lean into it. Own it, make that your lane, and that's your space. And if someone doesn't like you because of it, they're not your person anyway.
Yeah, it has already happened, not with agents, but with people. It's like, she thinks she's the only blind person out there. And they go very bleh about it. And I was like, okay, you're just not my people.
Yeah, that's a hater.
Yeah, that's a hater for sure. Oh, also, link just sent.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
So skedaddle.
Okay, bye.
Laura. Good luck.
Thank you, Laura. And congratulations. See, Laura is a great example of someone who just kept querying.
Yes.
And found a way. And Laura is an amazing writer.
I stick by Mom and Cousin Marilyn's theory of kissing people. You got to kiss 50 frogs before you find a prince, and it's not necessarily your prince. You then take that prince and you shop him around. They were kissing only men at this point in this little game. This was the 60s.
I don't
judge. Shop him around to all of your network of friends of whose prince is he, and then that one pairs off. And then everybody keeps kissing until they find a prince, and you keep doing this, and eventually you will crowdsource princes.
It's like
several of them apparently actually really did find other people's princes, so there were some happy marriages, I gather.
Really nice. That's great news.
That was the approach I took with my home party business that grew into a regional company where, we were doing, I was personally pulling in profit of about $12,000 a month. As a company, we were approaching $1 million a year gross. And that was within 2.5 years of starting just by myself doing home parties in the South. And that was not like these weird pyramid schemes. I was selling adult products, and I was the one who was wholesaling it. So, and then essentially I treat it as a business. So if you want to go into business,
why can I not picture you selling adult products? Like, why is that something I'm having trouble with?
Really? You should hear her pitches and spiels for her toys.
I have so many pitches that are probably not YouTube friendly at all.
Don't do it, because if you monetize, they'll demonetize it.
I'm not monetized yet, but I do actually. I was every time I hit a sort of writer's block, I go back to. There's a series that I essentially write, which is called The Good Times Redeemer. And it is essentially sort of a magical adult store that people walk into Fantasy Island style. And I essentially get to use all my pitches for products
my God.
The person and the salesperson, the magical Good Times Redeemer. figure out what this person actually needs rather than what they think they need. And that is what I do to get out of my writer's block when I need to write, but I cannot write anything because I've got these pitches memorized. I'm like, I will die with it. I could have dementia and I still have the pitches in my head.
Depending on how dirty they are, and I'm not kidding you, I mean, that is obviously the kind of canned content you could do.
It was by my alpha readers. It was termed wholesale erotica, or not wholesale.
Holy crap!
Wholesome soft erotica.
They'll demonetize that. I just reread all of them.
However, I'll be happy to share with you some Google Docs at some point. It's fun. It's meant to be fun. It's meant to be sweet. But yeah, I was told I never knew that wholesome erotica was possible. But reading this is wholesome erotica. Because
listen, even the Amish should be able to get off, okay? And we should not think for whatever reason.
I don't know that they would use some of these. There were plenty of electronics and batteries, but yeah. But nevertheless, that was my job for.
We've worked on it, and we've taken out the electronics and we've hooked it up to the egg beaters.
Yeah,
we can get this to work.
But yeah, we did that for years. It was wonderful. It was successful. I ended up having to close my business because Mom had pancreatic cancer, and we just couldn't be doing everything because we were literally traveling to another state for her medical care. My
joke in the chat
before we went on this incredible.
Oh, I was like, that is a very inopportune time to start busting up laughing. I was like, what is?
Yeah, I just where was I going with this, Tom?
The spaghetti
thrown by you do not see me as somebody who could sell a vibrator.
Oh. Yeah, no, I mean, I no. Listen, I think you could probably sell ice to an Eskimo. I think you're a wonderful.
That's very sweet, but at the time when I started this, I didn't think I could sell anything. I was I'm terrible at sales. I actually found that when you're a good salesperson, you're not selling.
Right.
You're listening. You're having real conversations with people. By the way, just because we are having this conversation, I want to go ahead and give a book recommendation. If you are the kind of person who feels like you are no good at any sales, let alone you're no good at any pitches, I'm going to do the thing with this. Okay, here it is. This is the book, How I Raised Myself from a Failure to Success in Selling by Frank Bettger.
Okay.
Bettger. I think this book was published in the 50s or 60s. What he sold was insurance. I have to be honest, I've read this book several times now. This is the book I would have written, and I didn't know that this existed. I had to figure all this out on my own, but he really goes over. So one of the chapters I was currently rereading, how asking questions increase the effectiveness of my sales interviews.
And why is that? Tell them why.
Because you need to know what's motivating that person.
To fix their problem.
How do you fix their problem with the thing you have? And he's very upfront. Sometimes you can't. You cannot fix their actual current problem with insurance or with a vibrator. You cannot solve their problem. However,
but maybe.
Sometimes, it just depends on the problem. Let's be honest. If it's my kids are hungry.
Oh, well.
A vibrator's not going to fix this.
Fair.
But sometimes.
Welcome to OF.com.
You know what? She can write these. You're right. I'm wrong.
But
you needed to stay on long enough.
I mean, Barrett, we could go on the road anytime you want to just do a little bit of vaudeville. You and I take this show on the road. But the point being, you may not be able to have what is going to solve this person's problem. However, you may know someone who you can connect them to, and they will both be grateful to you. And or you can at least go, okay, well, this is what I have. How could I help them with their secondary problem? Or you can simply be a friend and listen. People need people to listen.
Yep.
And you're still establishing relationships. When people found out, this is my guess, 15, 18 years ago when I started selling, a little more than that actually, when I was selling adult products, because we sold them first in the back of the video store. That's what kept the video store going.
Captive market.
Yes. But
it's where Ricky and I buy our supplies.
We got to survive. So what, though, it did help was having those personal relationship with people meant they would come back. So there are many people who, when I first met them, and they're like, oh, what do you do for a living? And I'm like, I go to people's homes with literally a suitcase of adult novelty products. And they're like, oh, no, I'm not in a relationship. And I'm like, you don't have to be in a relationship to do these things. I promise you.
Exactly. Come look at my trunk. I'll show you how to do
right. And they're like, oh, well, I don't do that. I just think that's sinful. And I'm like, that's fine too. But, I did actually have a few things that even if you were not against that, like there were other things as gifts and things. We had wonderful candles that smelled amazing. We had a few other things that were truly like I had a show that was tailor-made for your Southern Baptist grandma. And that was literally like because one time someone's Southern Baptist grandma stopped in right after the third product I'd shown to the party. And it was like, she's like, my grandma will disown me, my whole family. They own this house. I will be homeless. You can't and I'm like, don't worry. I have products for grandma and she doesn't ever have to know about any of the other things in my suitcase. And suddenly I had to birth the Southern Baptist Grandma Show. That grandma bought like $30 worth of candles and some other fun toys off of me. Like they were like cute little gag gifts and like little novelty keychains and things. So no. I know how to make a sale. But anyhow, my point simply being, if you think you're not good at sales, may I recommend this book? This book is about people. And so what I did find, even for those people who are like, I'm not interested in your products, it would be, true story, year later, they call me up, hey, Glory, are you still selling the thing in the people's homes ever? And I'm like, yes, I am. Have you switched religions? And they're like, no, but I have a friend who's getting married.
Ramblings of sin? Like, what other sins have you discovered since?
I mean, you never know where people's journey will take them. Yeah. And they were like, no, but there's like a bachelorette party that they asked me to do. And I'm like, oh, I know a person. And I'm like, oh, are you going to come? They're like, no, but would it still be okay if you met the hostess? I'll be there for the hostess meeting. And I'm like, all right, but if they're like creepy or rude, I'm not going to do the party because I'm not here to work with terrible people. And they're like, oh, no, I understand. And so again, it's still about people relationships. And a lot of the leads I got were from grocery store cashiers that they were like literally making talk with me of like, oh, so how's your day going? I'm like, it's fine. I got a party tonight to go to. And they're like, oh, what kind of party is it? And I'm like, oh, I sell adult novelty products. And they're like, do you have a business card? Because I might know someone who needs a party. And like, I have had like so many leads just from dropping it in about what I did from like people. I used to have a whole group of church ladies. They were like Dana Carvey church lady kind of prudes. And however, one day their pastor did a sermon about how a happy marriage is a godly marriage. And suddenly they wanted me to come to their house on a Sunday afternoon, right after choir practice.
You're going to show him.
And tell them what to get, what to buy, so that they could be sure they have a godly marriage.
Strap on.
Well, by the third party, I did sell one to the ladies. I had to warm them up. But yeah, they had me come back once a quarter, to refill the well. So all I'm saying is you'd be surprised how what you think are really impossible pitches, like selling to people who think what you do is sinful, or selling to people who are like, oh, I will never read your kind of genre book or whatever. You'd be surprised, because if you work more on those relationships, people want to work with you. People want to invest in you. So it's about relationships. And I have to say, this book
hear a lot. I hear a lot. People tell me all the time. This is like a constant in my life. I would be rich if I get paid every time I heard, well, I mean, I don't really read science fiction, but your book is intriguing. It sounds very interesting. I would like to read that, but usually I don't read sci-fi. And I'm like, it's a constant in my life.
Well, it may just be a changing your pitch direction to
removing sci-fi.
What's it called? Not sci-fi, not
speculative fiction.
Closer.
Paranormal?
Yes.
Paranormal.
Paranormal.
The gateway drug to sci-fi.
Right.
You can put sci-fi elements, but because it's about what people think they're getting into, and then it's your job to keep them interested to finish the story. But I mean, especially if it's the story I think you're talking about that I read.
The one you read,
you can definitely market that as just paranormal with sci-fi elements, and you might have a better market.
And don't even say, you know what, try this, doll. For a couple of queries, do not use sci-fi. Use paranormal. Use another. And see if you get a request. If you do, it is truly the word. Drop it. Use speculative fiction.
So let me give a weird example, and it's an indirect example, and just let me know if anybody's creative juices are flowing. So there was this product we used to sell. It was either the number 1 or number 2 seller. We called it Cleo Cream.
Is it coochie cream? Because I used to order it too.
Coochie cream for shaving. No, that's a different one, but that was our number 2 seller. Which is wonderful for.
I mean, it really is a great shaving.
Isn't it? Oh God! I wonder if I still have any there. Anyway, do you know how long it's been since I've shaved anything? Like, honey, there's no dating around here. This place is a dross. But anyway.
Oh, okay.
But Cleo Cream the original Cleo Cream was mint flavored, and it was specifically designed for women. You put it on specifically one location on the entire body.
By the way, the original name was Cleopatra's Secret Cream. Yes. We just call it Cleo.
Okay. So it was meant to, how shall I say, enhance foreplay for the woman. That was the original pitch. However, for those who told me that they believed that kind of thing may be sinful, here was my pitch, which is, do you enjoy exercising, or is it kind of a drag? Everybody thinks exercising to at least a certain degree is a drag. I mean, I know what I'm getting into here with this. And I say, well, I have several fitness instructors that tell me that when they just don't have a pep in their step and they still need to teach aerobics classes or exercise, they apply the Cleo Cream to the little area as instructed. And then they go start and teach their class. And it makes the entire class exciting and fun to do because there's a little woo down there the whole time. It's completely safe for it to be down there. It does not mess up anybody's chemistry. And let me tell you how many jars I sold to people who wanted to enjoy exercising more. So many people who were interested in getting fit. I sold it to bodybuilders. I sold it. And then I found out that the men folk were using it in a similar way, but behind the testicles.
Ma'am, you need a separate channel for all this information because there is an audience for it, and I'm ready to subscribe.
Oh yeah. Do I need to set up an OnlyFans account where I just simply here's all my pitches? But yeah, it turned out that the men folk were also finding it very helpful for exercising.
Go figure.
In their own locations, and that it was a great motivator to make things feel so cooling and refreshing. So I am here to say, well, if that is possible with Cleo Cream, and again, Coochie Cream, which was originally meant for shaving a specific area, and in fact,
you'll never guess where.
It's for shaving everywhere, and then on top of that, it's also actually a really lovely hair conditioner.
Yeah.
There are multiple ways to pitch the same product without changing the product or the labels.
Yes.
Which
although we did try to get them to change it, and they refused.
We did try to get them to change.
Because Coochie Cream really, that should be a far bigger, more popular product for the quality it is.
Agreed.
It really is one of the best shaving products out there ever. We've tried a lot.
I still buy it. Coochie Cream, if you want an affiliate link, I'm your girl. Holler at me. I will put those affiliate links on my page because I still use it for my beard. It's the best.
Isn't it the best?
Razor burn.
It really is, and it smells so lovely. And there are so many scents, and it is wonderful as a hair conditioner. So you can travel with just that.
Yes.
So anybody with ingrown hair. So I was selling a lot to African American men because ingrown hairs are a real problem, and they were like, I mean, people question me when they see it, this is, toxic masculinity, but I'm like, oh, it's from my girlfriend. Whatever, dude, whatever you have to do in order to get that lovely soft skin, go for it. I don't care. It's not my business.
You'll thank me later.
I want to, speaking of thank you, I just want to thank you for the book, because the book recommendation, because I found it on Script in audio.
Nice.
I found the audiobook on Script, and I'm like, yes, it's there. I love
That's awesome. I didn't know. So now I know that. So there is even, as I said, the book I think is out of copyright. It's really old, y'all. Because like he talks about selling insurance after World War II. And
wow.
And I think he actually started trying to sell insurance before World War II, and then he got drafted, and then he came back and like needed a job, and they like
as you do.
Yeah, but I mean, and how he did not do well for the first several years. He was really not surviving financially.
So that's the other thing I would say, and I for any and Doll, this is what I would say to you: the investments you make today, so like the Instagram investments you're making today, may not pay off in readership or something bigger for a year or 2 years. Or Glory's coming up.
I'm aware of that. Yeah.
No, yeah. If that's the one thing you keep in your mind, that it's a long game, then it's just a matter of like finding your readership. And the one thing I would say is if when you're doing your pitch to people, if saying sci-fi is making them go, well, I don't really read sci-fi. I agree with Tom. Get rid of sci-fi.
Throw it out.
Some other way to pitch.
Describe the elephant without ever calling it an elephant.
Awesome.
100%. And you know what? Let them be surprised. Because I would rather than be surprised, I would rather get a few people that have been surprised and come back and go, you know what? I really wished you'd have told me it was sci-fi or whatever, because then you're going to get someone to read the story and give you feedback. So change it up and try that, and let's see what happens.
Definitely going to be working on the labeling stuff. I'm not very good with that, so I'm happy to make a change and see how that goes. Because what I want is that the story goes out. I want to write this trilogy. I want it to be a thing. If I can do it self-publishing, then I have to do another thing. And if I have to adapt to make it happen, I'm sure I will do whatever for this. I would do anything that it's morally fine for this book to be, for this trilogy to be a thing. Anything. I would do anything if I can. And if it doesn't hurt other people, like if it's not a moral issue, I'll do it. Whatever. I have no problem with that.
I think that's the mark of somebody who wants it. You've got your eye on the prize, your eyes on the ring. It's not what's happening now. It's where you're headed. And that's what everybody in a query needs to be doing. Because
querying definitely teaches you to be patient.
The approach I took was, these are the products I have. This is all I have to sell. How am I going to sell it to the widest audience? Not like at once, but like individual sales. The same products. So like selling, Cleo cream to people who want to enjoy exercising better, who would never use it in the bedroom, is one way. And like, let me tell you, it was a $6 bottle, y'all. I mean, jar. It was a $6 jar of this stuff, and it would last at least a year for most people. Like, oh yeah, they would buy multiple jars in various flavors. Because people want, when you can find something that motivates them, it works. I feel like there's not a whole lot of difference between selling stories and selling our more mild adult products of, this is the product I have. How am I going to sell this to each person?
I mean, don't forget, if you're going to talk about selling to a lot of different people, as much as we don't always want to talk about it or admit to it, our mother and a lidocaine-based cream.
Oh God, her and the
she had at least 20 to 30 different sales pitches for this one tube.
Okay, so I don't even know if I can say the actual name of the product.
Yeah, it's like, we just called it Boo Boo Cream.
We called it Boo Boo Cream after a customer who came in and said, this is what I did. I put a big Band-Aid over, it's a tube of lidocaine cream, but it's stronger than anything you could buy at Walmart over the counter.
And it tastes fine because it's made for oral usage.
Oral backdoor things and cherry flavored.
My God.
Which I'm like, if it's for oral, why would you have it numbing? But anyway, I'm not even going to get into that weirdness. There's some things about this product that didn't make sense. But anyway, we put a big Band-Aid over the name because it had a name you don't want children to necessarily know. And she wrote with a marker, Boo Boo Cream, on the Band-Aid. And she came in and told us this and said it worked, because we had already heard from several people that it works wonders on bee stings. If you have swelling, like from a wasp sting or something, or if you have, if you get a scrape, like people who bicycle sometimes fall and they get like a terrible burn.
Road rash.
road rash, it takes out all the inflammation and you heal faster.
Mm-hmm.
So there were all these reasons that were in no way adults that it was really a useful product. It's also because it's meant to be oral consumed. It's wonderful for teething and for, say, an abscess if you can't get to the dentist. It's the weekend. So it had a lot of wonderful uses. Our mother sold at least one large tube a week to strangers, y'all.
Minimum. Just in her daily life.
She would mention it to every person and go, I have a magical tube in my purse. And anytime somebody, some kid fell outside the grocery store, she's like, oh, I've got boo-boo cream. You want me to put it on? It'll take all the pain away. And the mother's like, oh, yeah, sure. Puts it on. Literally within 30 seconds, the kid's like, it doesn't hurt anymore. And mom's like, don't touch your eyes with it. It'll feel funny. Because, can you imagine a numb eye? It really does feel funny. I did that by accident once. And, the mother would be like, what is this up? And then mom would literally sell her a $12 tube right there. And they're like, what is it? Mom's like, it would come with the Band-Aid already applied. Mom would go ahead and apply the Band-Aid or put the Band-Aid in the box for them. So they knew what was in it. But she had a pitch. She had at least, as Tom said, at least 20 different pitches to sell this stuff. And so I was literally having to buy this cream by the case just for her. She sold so much. It pretty much was financing all of her side projects, her garage sailing, everything, because she'd sell it anywhere she went. That's how I think about story sales. When you're pitching to anyone, is you pitch it to that individual person. You don't pitch it to, here is my one pitch. I only have one blurb. This is it.
We don't have just one trailer for a movie. Unless it's a very, very low-cost movie, and that's as much as they can afford to do. But any big major summer movie, there's minimum 5 trailers that come out, if not 8.
Right.
And they're all a little different. They're all aiming at a little bit different kind of audience who's looking for different aspects of a movie.
Right.
Same thing with your story.
Right.
You don't have to, have a story that's tailored to someone, just that they will get what they want out of it.
Right. And the reason to do it, to write pitches, even if you're in self-pub and you think, I don't need to do that, I don't have to be on PitMad. The reason it's a good thing to do and to have lots of different options for pitches is for those moments when you are in a store or you're at a family function and someone says, hey, what have you been working on? You should be able to recite that to them, because something I'm going to tell you now, it doesn't matter if it's trad pub or self-pub, the vast majority of the people you're going to reach for sales originally are going to be people that you can touch immediately. Mm-hmm. It's the same way with votes. So you can impact the people that your messengers can touch, and then you count on them to carry that water for you from that point forward. And so that's where the making the pitches individualized to the people. The thing that's important about that as a storyteller is you have to have command of your story. You have to know your character in and out, who they are, what they're about. You have to be able to tell me quickly in less than a sentence context of the story. Where does this exist, and why the bleep should I care? And then I need to have some sort of stakes that needs to make me think, wait a minute, what? Well, so now I need to know more, because that's the key. And if you cannot look at your story and pull out those simple 3 things, which sounds like, oh, that's nothing, I can do that in a heartbeat. Really? Write an epic fantasy and then turn around to me and say, oh, I can do a 2-sentence pitch, because I cannot tell you how many people in my genre come back to me crying later going, how do I make it 2 sentences? When do I tell them about the dragons? You don't. That's not what this is about. So, but I think that the lesson, the takeaway from all of this is, as a writer, you have to have command of what your story is about, and then you can change it to whoever you're in front of. You can customize it to fit.
I have a question now. I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
How do you market? So 2 sentences, right? So if you have a dual POV story, if you have 2 main characters, and it is truly the case that no main character is more important than the other, they can't exist. The story cannot exist without either. It's their story. It's not just one. So 1 sentence for each?
Yes.
No. Or you have a pitch that's just for.
Well, the panel disagrees.
Everybody
make their pitch on why they think they've got the handle on this. Go for this. Not that there's a right or wrong. There's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
So yeah, Barrett's is have one and then the other, essentially a summary, a concept for each of them. And for me, it's have two different pitches for depending on the audience, for your two different main characters.
And honest to God, if you're talking to an agent, I would more than likely go with either the same gender as the agent, or I would go with the male. Just because agents are looking at it from a business standpoint.
Yeah, I always go with a male. I always go with a male. He's the one who's not disabled, so I go with him.
Can I read you one that was in PitMad? This is from my CP group. She has a dual POV story, and so that's what made
awesome.
So this is her pitch. It was twins. Oliver and Persephone are excited to join the family business of necromancy. Sentence 1. That is until they start to learn there's more to their parents' disappearance and how Uncle Neil became a ghost than they were told.
Sentence I love it.
So that's what I meant. I didn't mean like with Tom. So with the two, what I meant is still truncate it. Keep it. Figure out how to. If you've got to talk about both characters, you've got to make it just their first names. We don't need to know last names or anything special. There's no space for that. Because if you're making the choice to tell us about both of them, then there has to be a reason you're telling us about both. In this case, they're twins, and the family lore is the plot, is how the story rolls. So like it makes sense there, right? So like figure out in your story how to manipulate your pitch to, if they both need to be talked about, do it in a way that's simple, quick, and in and out. Because for the pitch,
and it's not necessarily all, it doesn't have to stay 100% accurate to how the story unfolds. Like that's the whole point of stories, is you learn as you go.
Yeah.
So like your story, my pitch would be, what's her name?
Annie.
Annie has dreams so real. She swears she gets to go to a better place every night when she dreams. Petro has been trained his whole life.
No, Tibor.
Yeah, Tibor has learned to. It's been a few months. Right. Tibor, on the other hand, has been trained to assassinate people with his dreams. Can they save each other?
That's a great pitch. I love it.
Oh my God!
When can I buy the book? I'm ready. Take my money now.
Do we all agree on this point? Your pitch should only take you to the inciting incident.
Yes.
We don't need to know one thing past the inciting incident.
No, you don't want to even give like a hint of how it ends, because no. That's the payoff for the reader. The whole point is to hook them, not to like reel them in yet. You're hooking them.
No. Exactly. That's a hook. Yes.
Snaps to Tom for writing that on the fly in front of us.
On the fly. It was so
that
good.
I would not do. I hate to write in front of people. That's why I don't do writing streams. I hate it. I hate it. I will pick my nose while I'm writing, or something will happen that I will think, no. So Tom, mad props to
you guys, no, they really are masters of pitches. I can tell. I memorized it. I'm writing that down. I'm using it. I'm using it in the next pit map. I am targeting paranormal people.
Exactly. And if anything, people in the paranormal readership are actually always rather happy to hear about how the paranormal supersedes the science part. And so even with the science fiction being in there, that's fine, because we're relying more on the paranormal. And so the paranormal people will really bend over to fit things into where they want it to fit.
True.
So it's like, don't worry about the science fiction elements going, people going, oh, but there's space, space involved in this, and they're, elsewhere. And it's like, doesn't matter. People will go,
Tom,
you pitched as paranormal.
Eva would like you to repeat your 2-sentence pitch for us.
Okay.
No. Okay, so we're all gonna be quiet. We're gonna let Tom do
it. Absolutely right again.
Annie has dreams so real. She every night she gets to go to a better place than where she lives. Or I can't remember quite what I said. Pibor was trained since he was born to assassinate with his dreams. Can they save each other?
It's the one was born with, the other was.
Yep. It's a wonderful way to work it.
Yeah.
We see just how different and divergent these two points of view are going to be.
And yet we know they will intersect. From the pitch, we know they are going to meet. Or
at some point, how are they going to? How? We don't know, but at some point.
We know the stakes, and we know why we should care.
Yes. I mean, and it's a really good hook, because I'm like, yes, I want to know too. How's this all going to work out? And also assassinate people with dreams. Oh, go on.
Right.
When the actual story goes through, it's better explained. It's not quite like that, but that's like the shortest way to phrase the concept.
Mm-hmm. It really is. I would have never.
Concept.
I would have never in a billion years been able to do that.
But isn't that how it works? We're too close to our own. Like, it's
and that's why I was suggesting, like, if we could all, as writers, network with each other, we could, and we practice pitching. We can practice on each other's works and give that to the author, so that that there's a little bit we're too close emotionally and mentally, but we can help each other, and we shall all rise. That's my theory. That's what I'm sticking with. That's the point of Raving Reader Roundup, y'all, to bring it all the way back. Yes.
It really is. If there's anything I can do for people, I still don't know what it is, but I'm always looking for what can I do? How can I help? So that's why I'm here as well.
But yeah, like I can only do that when I'm having a good time. So it's trickier while I'm working, which is most of the time when I do my hot takes. And that's why I'm still not getting the hot takes out that often, because it's like it's been a rough time in delivery work world.
Tom, you've been the only person. Like, I'm telling you, you have been the only reader from everyone who has seen my thing. Like at some point in the stage of the drafting at whatever, who saw like 1 chapter, 2 chapters, half the book. You are the only one who got the whole thing. Like, I didn't have to explain anything to you.
Just like
you really were the only one.
Yep.
So you're good. You really are good. You're doing. There were some people I didn't have to explain anything either. They got it. They really understood. But for example, the Kirlian reference, you were the only one. The technology implications of other things, you were the only one.
And again, actually, the Kirlian will also definitely more interest the paranormal than the sci-fi side.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So I think we have some ideas for pitching Doll's story.
I know, we have
would anyone else like to come on another time and we can work on your stuff?
Yeah.
We're definitely working on your things. I'm definitely.
Wait till you hear my pitch for Maggie's story with the aliens.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I can't wait. So I was thinking this might be a good place to sort of wrap up the show. 3.5 hours. So we'll do outros. I'll go ahead and tell everybody next week on the 14th, we're going to talk about unlocking demographics and branding. We're specifically going to talk about your reader demographics as well as your genre specific demographics. So we're talking at a bunch of different demographics because I've noticed that, and again, I'm not trying to shade anyone here, but I've noticed in the AuthorTube world, it seems like not everyone has a grasp of this. And so I feel like I need to go over this, and like not just me, obviously, because Doll and I believe Robert and Zara will be joining us, and hopefully one day we will see Barrett again.
I'm going to come back for this one because you said branding, and I'm like, you know what? I can plug the other deal, and obviously I love to talk and hear myself talk.
We love it when you plug, Barrett. We love it when you plug anything. Happy Pride Month, y'all. Okay, anyway.
I'm pitch the series. Yes, please.
Yes,
please make it.
That's what Tom and I do. We literally talk and make pitches up for stories we read. This is what we literally at dinner time. This is how we.
You guys are great at it. Like this has
all this as a writer's retreat experience.
We do this for fun.
Book moves
this
into
is how we, shoot the breeze, y'all. This is literally how we, and we're trying to let's help other people with this. You're gonna have fun. Let's do this all together. I promise we'll baby step you in.
No, dude, for real. This has been like the best pitching and querying. Like everyone had something to say. I'm here just nagging and being annoying. But everyone, no, for real. Everyone here had something amazing to say about pitches. The only thing I can say is don't query like me that I go one by one. It's just that at the moment, I don't know any other way. But seriously.
It's a journey.
Seriously, it's a journey. Be patient. That would be my contribution. This is the part where I can say, be like Dal, be patient. Be patient, because I am always like, I should give up and open a pizza parlor, and then the next month you see me like working hard on Instagram or something like that. It's like I'm always feeling like giving up, and a part of my brain is like, nope, crap, you're not giving up on this book. You're gonna die, and you're gonna query as a ghost. It doesn't matter.
And then it'll be paranormal.
Then it truly will be paranormal.
There's a great title for a story.
What
the
is
ghost
that?
Story.
The ghost story.
The ghost story.
Would anyone like to do an outro? It is totally optional. Dal,
Sure.
you ready?
Thank you. Yes. Thank you everyone for helping me and for the amazing tips. I hope I can serve as a case study. I'm very, very, very grateful for all the support. I am Dal Cecile Bruno. I'm a partially blind author of multiple genres, and I also write poetry. You can find me more often on Instagram these days. My YouTube channel will be back when I know what to do with it, and come stronger than ever before. So you can follow me all over social media as Dal Cecile Bruno, like the name that you see on screen. And I am the author of that short story that is called Danger. You can find more about that on Instagram. Thank you.
Thank you, Dal. All right, Barrett, are you ready? I know you're like, I'm born ready.
I was born ready. Hi, everybody. My name is Barrett Laurie. Join me over on my channel. I talk about two things, books and butt stuff. The books, I want to break into traditional publishing, so I do canned videos about my journey to that goal. And coming up soon, to plug my thing as well as Glory's, they are talking about branding, my whole series through the summer, through the fall, while I'm writing this new book that I hope to pitch in the fall to literary agents. The whole series is about author platform, growing your author platform, social media, the importance of branding yourself, et cetera, et cetera. So if that is the kind of thing you want to get into, or butt stuff, head over to my channel and give me a check out. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Barrett.
This was fun. I loved this topic. You could do
I'm
this.
so glad we did it. And honestly, we just did it as a way to like get more people on the show, quite frankly. Tom, would you like to do an outro again? Totally optional.
I'm not sure what to really say.
Tom's got a new show called Tom Fixes. No, I'm teasing. I'm teasing so much.
Tom Fixes Hot Takes.
So Tom and I were talking about doing a watch party show on Twitch on Saturday afternoons this summer only.
I'm not even on Twitch, but I'll get on it. I'll do it.
You totally need to. It will be done through Amazon Prime. So while you can still see us, even if you don't have Amazon Prime, you won't be able to see the movie. But however, that said, I will totally do the whole, we're all going to press the button together, everybody. So if you do have a copy access elsewhere, you can still watch the movie. And mostly we will be riffing, and everyone else is welcome to join us riffing.
That sounds like fun.
So anyway, also, okay, so I guess there's me. Hi, I'm Glory, and if you've made it this far, I'm super thrilled. You've made my day. I hope you've had a wonderful time, and if you had, please consider liking, subscribing, ringing the bell, sharing with friends, all the cool things, following me on social media, because I like good people. I think that if you're over here, you're probably one of the cream of the crop. Maybe I'm biased. Anyhow, thank you so much. Come back next week on Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern. We're going to talk about unlocking demographics and branding, and it's going to be lovely, and there will be lovely people. You're going to love it. So thank you so much.
That was great.
Ring the bell. Thank you. All right, well, we're going to go, and we hope you have a lovely week. Goodbye, everybody.